Harder. Yes, just like that. Ah! A breathy moan echoed through Caden's cheap earbuds. He lay on his unmade bed, watching pixelated bodies grind on his cracked phone screen. Suddenly, he no longer felt like watching, so he paused the video. If only I could earn money doing that, he muttered, just as his stomach growled in protest. He sighed. Too broke to care and too tired to think. Caden shuffled toward the kitchen barefoot, half-blind and emotionally bankrupt. His heel hit a banana peel. Crack. Skull met countertop. Silence enveloped the room. Caden Ashbourne died doing what he did best. Slipping through life. Ding! Supreme Demonic Sovereign Protocol initiating. Analyzing host. 0%, 10%, 50%, 99%. Analysis complete. Calculating ideal personalized system. Calculation complete. Host has been granted. The pornstar system. Caden jolted upright with a gasp, as soon as his broken bones were put back in place. Huh! I just died, didn't I? Then he noticed the screen floating in front of him. Wait, did I awaken? He tried touching it, but his fingers moved past it. It was transparent, only visible to his mind. After a minute of internal panicking with a heart that was beating like a war drum, he collected his thoughts. No, this isn't awakening. It's something else. 10 years ago, the world changed. Mana, an invisible energy, flooded the atmosphere. Dungeons tore open reality. Monsters appeared, and some humans awakened, gaining supernatural powers. Status, he commanded inwardly, and the screen disappeared instantly. Caden summoned it back to study it more. Welcome to the pornstar system. Host. Name. Caden Ashbourne. Rank. 0 worm. Class. Level. Tutorial mission. Stop being pathetic. In 1 month, build muscle, boost stamina, and qualify for adult film work. Suggested target. Untainted Holes is going to be hiring debut talent next month. Rewards for success. 1. Greater access to the system. 2. Random skill card. Love. Life-altering choice. The hell? Pornstar system. Caden couldn't help but groan. I mean, yeah, I did want to make money while raw-dogging hot chicks, but if I were to get a system, couldn't it be something else? Allow me to summon the elements forth from my fingertips and stuff like the cool Awakened guys. Damn it! Awakened had varying classes. Some were mages who could manipulate fire, wind, lightning, etc. That's what Caden meant. He wanted to be a badass combatant. However, something is strange. I have no class, and I've never heard of an Awakened having a tutorial mission. It's like my system works as a separate entity from the systematic interface that all people have access to. When mana first appeared, even the non-awakened, nicknamed commoners, gained access to a personal systemic interface. For most, it was a gimmick, its functions locked behind awakening. But for those who did awaken, it became everything. A marketplace for artifacts, potions, and weapons. A social hub with forums, DMs, and even a dedicated media platform. As Caden processed all this, another message lit up. Initial pathways detected, choose one. 1. Body of the Crimson Idol sculpted physique optimized for performance and stamina. 2. Rod of Virility enhanced male genitalia size. 3. Wealth of Temptation $1 million deposited. Usable only for career development. 4. Skill draw, gain 1 random skill card. Caden's eyes instantly locked onto the cash. $1 million could change everything. But deep down, he knew it wouldn't change him. Option 4 had random in it. That was a no-go. No telling if he'd get something dumb like enhanced left nipple. Came down to body versus rod. However, he didn't need to think long. Building muscle? That was grindable. But option 2, that wasn't something you could achieve by hitting the gym. Caden clenched his jaw. No half measures. He whispered to himself, steeling his resolve. Give me the real deal. Rod of Virility has been selected. Upgrade initiating. Pain. Unholy cosmic pain. as if his manhood was being reforged in the blacksmithing hell of a demon king. JHH. Arg. Bang. 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 Shut the hell up, you freak! Someone screamed through the wall. Caden couldn't answer. He was convulsing. Foam at his lips. Eyes rolling. Then, stillness. Caden was a college student majoring in economics, mostly because it was safe and he had no better ideas. He hated every class but stuck with it because of the student loans. Until now, that is. Welcome to your saga, host. You have taken your first step. Ascend to greatness by evolving your system. A few hours later, he awoke with his body covered in cold sweat. He decided to take a shower, but once in there, a big surprise awaited the young man as he glanced down. A monster was staring back at him. Oh! Caden's brain finally caught on to reality when he realized that this creature was the reason why he had gone through that horrible experience. He had gone from 5.5 inches, 14 centimeters, all the way to 9 inches, 23 centimeters. Well, according to the system, he wasn't in a battle-ready stance right now to check the validity of the system's statement, but his flaccid little brother had already dwarfed his previous greatest treasure in size. It was like a sleeping serpent, ominous and ready to strike at a moment's notice. How will I go about this mission, though? Should I even listen to this thing in my mind? I just got a giant shaft for free. Basically, save for the most excruciating pain I've felt in my life. What if I ignored this system going forward? But, on the other hand, if this is not a nefarious, invasive parasite, it could be completely life-altering. It also doesn't have a penalty for failure, which earns a positive note in my book. I hate those novels where the MC is a slave of the system. Caden decided to at least complete the tutorial mission. If some supernatural creature wanted to harm him, he would have long since been dead. Thus, the system deserved some trust as far as he was concerned. He didn't want to throw this opportunity away just to ease his paranoia. Furthermore, even if he couldn't become one of those epic awakened guys who could waltz into dungeons and slay horrendous monsters, this pornstar system was still better than nothing. He didn't want to remain a simple, ordinary existence, no matter the cost. Thankfully, it was summer break, so he had all the free time he could ever want. Now that things have come to this, Caden started to become visibly excited at the prospect of his future career. As far as he was concerned, he either does this and lives the life he wants or becomes an economist who spends his life sitting behind a computer while looking at boring financial charts in an office cubicle until he turns into a 70-year-old frail man and is finally allowed to retire. The choice was obvious. Live hard like a rock star. He cleaned himself and then went to grab his phone, exiting from the adult site and opening his banking application. $5. That was the depressing sight that welcomed him once he entered his credentials. Caden shed a manly tear at the view and then sighed dejectedly. He had so little money he would either have to take up a part-time job or move back with his family. The latter was something he truly didn't wish to do. The friction back home has been extremely high since he turned 20 years old, which is the final year in one's life when they have a chance to awaken. There had been some outliers, but they were 1 in a million. He was destined to remain a commoner until this strange day. It's time to go all in by investing in myself and the future I might attain should I give it my all, he decreed while nodding to himself resolutely. Caden opened his crypto account and sold all his scam coins, soon receiving a transfer of $800. Finally, I don't need to watch these volatile pieces of shit going from red to green to red every other minute. He couldn't help but feel somewhat liberated. The first thing he decided to do was visit the nearest gym. While the getting fit part of the mission could be achieved on his own, he thought that if he were to invest in himself, he might as well go all in and get state-of-the-art equipment and the guidance of a personal trainer. His 1-month time frame given to complete the tutorial mission would fly by at a moment's notice. He had no time to fumble around by running laps in a park or watching out *B workout guides. While it might be a weird dream for people, Caden truly wished to be a porn star. It was his dream job since encountering his first adult video. Well, besides being a mighty awakened, of course. It was a perverted dream, yes, but he wasn't affected by the drawbacks of the job. Caden liked attention, he loved gorgeous women, he wanted money, and he couldn't give a damn if his member was on tape for the whole world to see. especially now that it had become such a wonderful specimen. Haters could hate for all he cared. He will be swimming in money and women, soaking in a luxury jacuzzi while snickering at the hate comments with a babe in each of his arms. What a life that would be, he thought wistfully. With his unrealistic daydreaming completed for the time being, Caden soon arrived at the gym Titan training. He waltzed through the door and went straight to the reception. "Welcome to Titan training. How may I be of assistance?" A cute girl he recognized from his college's campus greeted him enthusiastically. "I wish to get a month's membership along with the guidance of a personal trainer." Understood. This is a high-end facility with many activities available inside, like yoga classes, organized basketball games, and more. Our equipment is also the best available on the market, and our pricing reflects that. A monthly membership is $100 for the local students and $200 for the rest of the populace. Our trainers are highly professional individuals, so their help is fairly priced as well, with a 1-hour session costing $80. Yikes! I will need to find a part-time job pronto. However, I heard great things about this place from the gym rats in my class. It should be worth the price, I suppose. I would like to sign up with the student discount and pay for an hour as well. Understood. She processed his registration and he was in. The receptionist stood from the counter and followed after him, giving him a brief tour of the essentials, as she called them, which lasted for more than 10 minutes. It was a big place. "Liam, Arya, please come here," she called out suddenly, and two people who were doing lifts and squats abruptly ceased their activities and presented themselves. Liam was a real hulking man with giant muscles, a clean shave, and a trendy hairstyle. His appearance screamed gym bro. Friendly, dedicated, macho, and confident. He sported a simple trainer attire with shorts and nothing on his upper body besides a towel draped over his right shoulder. He looked to be about 30 years old. On the contrary, Arya was a slender, youthful, and exceptionally beautiful girl with long silver hair. She was, without a doubt, the most beautiful woman Caden had ever seen, whether in real life or online. Her silvery eyes highlighted her flawless complexion, and her delicate features had a divine quality, as if she had surpassed humanity and its many flaws. The clothing she wore enhanced her attractiveness even more. She was dressed in close-fitting leggings that highlighted her ample curves, snapping to her body tightly. A sleeveless crop top exposed her stomach and shoulders for all to see, showcasing her slim waist and smooth skin. The receptionist spoke up, bringing him out of the shock his brain suffered due to the girl's heavenly appearance. "Ahem. These two are Liam and Arya. They are both trainers who are free for the next hour. Please select one of them." Caden was suddenly presented with an incredibly difficult decision. A dilemma so great that ancient Greek philosophers would have to debate for a century straight and still not arrive at a clear-cut resolution. Liam was the obvious choice for efficiency. Not only was he a man, thus he could give him better tips and understand his struggles more, but he also had a decade on this girl by the look of things, meaning he likely had much more experience in their occupation. Arya, on the other hand, was simply his dream girl. Furthermore, based on her body proportions, she was the typical female gym-goer who worked mostly on her lady curves, so she truly didn't seem to be the ideal instructor for an ambitious man like him. Once he examined Liam for a few seconds, who only nodded at him with a gentle smile, he looked at Arya once again. Sensing his attention was on her, she made an unprofessional gesture of puffing her bountiful chest out and nodding at him supportively. "Damn! This girl desperately wants my money. I can sense it." He cursed inwardly while biting his inner lip until it bled. He had come to a decision. "Ancestors give me strength, for I refuse to be a simp. I'm here to gain muscles so that I can score chicks like her as a man, not as a paying customer. Once I'm fit enough, I will strike up a conversation with her and earn her heart the way I was meant to." Caden gave the beautiful silver-haired girl a final pained glance that was akin to a farewell before turning to Liam. "I would like you, Liam, to help me if possible. But of course, young man." He nodded with a nonchalant smile. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Damn it. Arya cursed under her breath and went back to doing her squats, which only further showcased how awesome of a butt she was the proud owner of. What magnificent mounds! Caden exclaimed in sheer awe. Young man, let's start, shall we? Liam interrupted his rude staring while glancing at the clock on the wall. Caden's expensive time had officially begun. Tell me what your expectations are. I want to be a stud in bed who is great to look at on camera. Ho ho. Do you want to post selfies to the gram? Caden shook his head. No, I want to be a porn star. Liam choked on his saliva and began coughing. After gathering his bearings, he continued with a wry smile. Well, that's a first. You're a bold one. What's your name? Caden. Caden, you know that you need more than a six-pack to succeed in that field of work, right? Muscles are important, yes, but they're only secondary. I have a big dong, and I already have a training method in mind for the techniques and longevity departments. Liam's eyes widened once again at his shamelessness. Ahem. Well, alright then. I assume you want a leaner build than mine, correct? I'm not big on videos since I have a lovely lady waiting for me at home, but I haven't seen one where the man has a bodybuilder-like physique. I assume it has to do with stamina. Indeed, lean and muscular is the ideal physique that I want to achieve. People with your size aren't great at cardio, which is more important for this line of work than explosive strength. The young man informed. Makes sense. Let's take your measurements. Don't worry. I won't count this as your paid time. We have 70 minutes until my next trainee arrives. I'm yours until then. As Liam began, Caden couldn't help but ask, what's up with the trainer named Arya? She seemed kind of desperate for me to select her. Oh, I'm not one to ask personal questions from coworkers, but I suppose she needs the money. Our contracts are set up in a way that makes it so we don't make any money if we have no clients. How can she not have clients? If I wasn't on my life's most important mission, I would have chosen her in a heartbeat. No offense. Liam chuckled amusedly at his choice of words before responding, ha ha ha, none taken. She is in a weird spot, to be honest. She is too good-looking, so her male clients keep getting erections at best and try to inappropriately touch her at worst, so she usually has to ask management to kick them out in the middle of her first session. As for female clients, most prefer good-looking male trainers like yours truly, and even those that don't would rather settle for a more average-looking, older woman since Arya makes them feel bad about themselves. Liam then glanced around to check if anyone was listening in before continuing with muted whispers. I shouldn't say this as a dedicated trainer, but even if their hard work in the gym pays off, they will never look as good as Arya does, since it's 80% genetics and only 20% conscious effort at her level of attractiveness. Oh, that makes sense. Caden nodded sagely, absorbing the information. Liam has finished his measurements, and this is how they turned out to be. Caden was a lanky man who had a lot to work on. Height: 6 foot 2 1/2 inch, 189 centimeters. Weight: 155 pounds, 70 kilograms. Chest circumference: 37 inches, 94 centimeters. Waist circumference: 31.5 inches, 80 centimeters. Body fat percentage: 14%. Shoulder circumference: 43 inches, 109 centimeters. Arm circumference: relaxed 12.5 inches, 32 centimeters. Great. I can do wonders with a build like yours. With your height, you could add up to 50 pounds of pure muscle and still be considered in your desired shape. That is, not be closer to a bodybuilder than a fit, healthy athlete. We will also try to get your body fat percentage down to the 10% mark and see where we go from there. How often can you come to visit? I will need to find a well-paying part-time job, but I plan to go all in the next 30 days, so I want to visit you at least twice a week and the gym itself every day. Oh? Then you are serious. Good to see, just make sure you don't get burned out. Once today's training is done, I will suggest a strict, getting ripped regimen for you. It will detail numerous exercises, meals, and even ideal sleep schedules. Let's aim to add 4 pounds of pure muscle to your frame, as well as lose some body fat within your first month. This was exactly what Caden wanted. A to-the-point trainer with great tips and knowledge. However, now that Liam mentioned food, He realized that he would also need to buy more expensive groceries since, in the world of cuisine, healthy was often synonymous with expensive. Fuck. I'm dying. Caden thought inwardly while wheezing like a 70-year-old chain smoker who had been basking in the company of nicotine since he was a budding teenager. He was pretty good at basketball while growing up, but he stopped once he reached 16 years of age and had been an avid gamer and anime/web novel/porn enthusiast since then, which meant that he wasn't in the best of shapes physically. There was a lot of work to be done. Liam put him through lots of full-body movements, making him feel sore all over. Caden was now fully aware of how amazing of a decision he had made by choosing Liam. If he tried this alone, he would have given up after the warm-up exercises, and if he had chosen Arya, well, chances are he wouldn't have put all his effort into doing what she was instructing, and her instructions might have been less effective to begin with. Haha, young man, it seems you truly are determined to excel in your desired career path. Although it's not for me, I wish you luck. If you keep training this diligently, you will not have trouble landing a role soon. Well, as far as musculature goes, you have a handsome face, so now all you need is... ahem. The other stuff. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. It was funny seeing such a macho man be embarrassed about this topic. Caden tried his hardest to look into his trainer's eyes without trembling from soreness. He extended a hand towards Liam. Thanks. I can tell that you will help me attain what I want. The hulking man accepted the handshake with a firm grip of his own. I didn't want to say this, but seeing your dedication, I can't help but want to do something for you. My good friend runs a bar, and he has trouble finding reliable waiters who work the night shift. I can't help you land the job, but if you wish, I can give you his phone number. Caden's eyes shined brightly due to the sudden opportunity that presented itself in front of him. Can you give me an estimate of how much the hourly wage would be? Liam thought inwardly for a second while shamelessly glancing towards Arya's wildly jiggling behind before replying. I suppose it would be in the $15 ballpark, but I can't say for certain. Waiters make their money from tips, which would ideally add another $15 to $60 per hour. Yes, even the appearance of the apocalypse didn't change the tendency of the hospitality industry to underpay their serving staff and force the customers to pay it in their stead in the form of tips. As for why were people even working such jobs in the age of mana and monsters? Only a small portion of humanity, about 15%, were awakeners. The rest lived normal lives that were almost identical to the one humanity led before the arrival of the apocalypse. The only difference was that sometimes they got eaten by a rogue monster or squashed to death by an awakened who was fighting another one. If I work 6 hours a day and sleep 8, then I will have all the money I need and also be able to train to my heart's content. Sounds as good of a deal as I'll get before the month is up. I don't have the luxury of searching for the most ideal hiring, and getting accepted within a few days is another issue to consider altogether. Caden said his goodbyes, washed up in the shower facility, then stepped out of the building to visit a grocery store and stocked up on all the nutrients he was supposed to be consuming. He ended up spending another painful $100, though it should last him for a few days at least. Once he was done with that, he checked his banking app. $525 left. Caden cooked himself a healthy meal and then stepped out once again, this time going straight to an adult toy shop. He was looking for a few things in particular. Hi, do you need assistance? A cute, short girl spoke up from behind the reception desk. She had purple-colored hair that she wore in braids over her shoulders, and the girl also wore a futuristic-style jacket, giving her a look that made her stand out from the average person. Caden found her to be an incredibly sexy girl. Be that as it may, he had no time to marvel her beauty, for he was a man on a mission. I want a life-sized fuck doll and a liter of lube. Ha! The employee's eyes fluttered wide open with surprise, not because she was shocked by his shopping targets but because he revealed it to her so shamelessly. People who wanted such things tended to keep to themselves and send her away when she offered her help. Interestingly, male customers were always shy around her, with only females wishing to chit-chat and the like. I said I dash before Caden could repeat. He was interrupted. I heard you. May I know if you have any specifics in mind? He thought a bit inwardly before replying. Yeah. I want to become as good in bed as possible so it should give a realistic feel. She might have been surprised, but Luna wasn't one to dwell on the past, and her awkwardness tolerance was also through the roof, so she replied without issue, "In that case, I don't recommend life-sized blow-up dolls, but what we call fleshlights. These are the new rage and have been for a while. Blow-up dolls are a relic of the past. Fleshlights are said to give a very realistic feel of how it is to be inside a woman, especially the ones that are more than a simple, cheap toy. I recommend one that has 2 holes, a bubbly butt, and the beginning of a torso you can grip onto. It will give as realistic of a feeling as possible while not costing an arm and a leg." It was Caden's turn to raise an eyebrow at the girl. She was extremely enthusiastic while talking about masturbators. But, just like Luna, he was an eccentric person, so he just shrugged his shoulders after getting over his initial surprise and said, "Sounds good." Luna grinned at Caden smugly. "That's just the beginning. There are so many variants." Caden listened to the unhinged girl list different male toys, as well as the positives and benefits of each type, while sporting a fulfilled smile on her delicate face. Caden didn't doubt that she was having fun. Although he didn't know it, the reason why she was so enthusiastic in indulging him with her knowledge of male toys was that no one ever asked for her assistance when buying one, so she was eager to showcase her vast amounts of information on the topic. In the end, he chose something called a torso sex doll, which, just like Luna said in the beginning, had 2 holes, a butt, and the lower end of a torso. It would do as his introduction to the world of adult toys. According to the purple-haired eccentric girl, it was a premium product, so it cost $200. Caden's heart ached, but he wanted one that was as close to the real deal as possible. The whole training had no meaning otherwise. An unsatisfied ding would soon sound in his mind as a result of his actions. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Afterward, Caden chose a liter of lube and went straight home. Well, he wanted to, but wait, there's one more thing. The young woman, who he learned was called Luna, shouted excitedly with sparkling eyes, then rushed to the storage room behind the reception desk. She soon emerged with a small box in her hand. "This is a heating stick. You should push it in the hole you plan to use a few minutes beforehand, and it will warm it up, creating an even more realistic and pleasant feel. It's on the house." He accepted the box with a wry smile adorning his lips, then went back to his dorm room. Caden put on his favorite video, a nostalgic piece that was his introduction to the world of adult filming back when he was a budding teenager. It was badly outdated graphically, and since then, he'd seen a myriad of objectively better videos, but he still came back to this from time to time. A man simply had to cherish his roots. It was the right way to lead one's life. However, as he was undressing himself, a sudden alarm sounded in his mind. Ding! The host is truly a virgin loser. He lives on a college campus with numerous ripe chicks flocking around like bored kittens, desperately looking for a boyfriend. Yet he chose to buy a self-pleasure toy. What the hell? Hey system, my room is a judgment-free zone. Leave me alone. He cursed inwardly. Since when was this piece of shit occupying his head so strongly opinionated? Thus far, it was like an objectively driven machine, but Caden didn't know what to think anymore. Although the host made a pathetic move, it wasn't a stupid one. The porn star system approves. Ding! New side quest. Training arc. Training arc. Use adult toys to become sufficient in. Thrusting movements 0%. Sucking resistance 0%. Bed stamina 0%. Time limit 4 weeks. Rewards 1. An upgrade point. 2. Random skill card. Caden couldn't help but smirk. 2 such rewards for an easy quest like this? Although he didn't know what exactly these were meant to do, they sounded important. He was more or less gifted 2 rewards. After all, how difficult could this side quest be? Very. The answer to that question was very difficult. Caden exhausted all his stamina, and the percentages barely moved at all, especially the latter 2. His body was already aching from Liam's training regiment, and while his member was very large, his endurance needed to be worked upon. He now realized why the system gave him this mission. He wasn't at all ready to succeed as a porn star. If he got a role as he would have only embarrassed himself. Once he rested a bit, Caden grabbed his phone and called the number Liam gave him. Bruno speaking. A deep voice answered. Hello. My name is Caden Ashbourne. Liam sent me your number. Said you were looking for a night shift waiter. Is this still the case? Ashbourne? You wouldn't be. I get that a lot, but sadly, I'm not part of that illustrious family. I wouldn't be calling you for a night shift job if I were. Oh, I guess you're right. Haha. Hey there, Caden. Yes, we desperately need some help. When can you hold a trial session? Tonight. Amazing. That's what I like to hear. Come to this address. Just as so, Caden had found himself employed for the first time in his life. The work was hard, especially after how tiring his day had proven to be already. Liam had put him through the ringer with his training, and continuously humping Evangeline. That's how he decided to name his new training partner. Wasn't as easy as he had imagined either. Caden was tired both physically and mentally. In the end, he only accepted a 4-hour shift instead of the 6 he thought of originally or the 8-hour one Bruno hoped he would accept. 4 hours a day would get him $60 guaranteed and most likely another $60 to $100 from tips. Even with this new and more expensive lifestyle of his, he only really needed to worry about food and paying for Liam's training. At least as far as completing the system's tutorial mission was concerned. If he wanted to leave a good impression, it might not be a bad idea to dress up for the casting at the agency, though he wasn't sure if that would be appreciated. He might end up being completely out of place. Yeah, thinking about it a bit more, he decided that he shouldn't buy a proper salaryman-style suit but something more trendy than what was available to him currently. A visit to a hairstylist would also do him some good. Caden undressed from his normal streetwear and put on his exercising attire. He had slept like a log after he finished his shift in Bruno's bar. After waking up, he cooked himself an omelet and drank a protein shake, then went to the gym straight away. His motivation had been through the roof ever since the system gave him the tutorial mission. Today, he wasn't going to meet with Liam but do upper body exercises by himself the two of them went over yesterday. Caden's muscles were aching, but he knew that as long as he was careful, he could strain them a bit. He had to build up resistant muscles. He placed his belongings in a locker and exited the changing room. However, before he could even take a step, the beautiful trainer girl, Arya, was waiting for something. Caden found it very strange, but since there was not much of a reason for her to be standing in front of an otherwise empty male locker room, he guessed that she was here for him. Thus, he walked to her and said, "Can I help you with something, Arya?" The silver-haired girl glanced around carefully before replying, "I just wanted to ask how your training was with Liam." Caden frowned for a second but decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. "Very good. I have no complaints." Hearing his comment, Arya's eyes lost a bit of their luster as her shoulders slumped, and she sighed. "I see." Seeing her reaction, Caden knew exactly what this was about. "Isn't trying to poach your colleague's clientele very rude?" he asked, more so out of curiosity towards seeing her response than trying to be an annoying moral compass. He couldn't care less what she did to get trainees paying for her time. It was a dog-eat-dog world, especially since the arrival of the apocalypse. It added an extra element of uncertainty to everyone's lives, making people value the present more than ever. "No, I wasn't trying to do that. Liam is an experienced trainer. I was just wondering how his client felt after a session with him." Arya's response was a torrent of words that spewed out of her mouth as if she were a rapper. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Caden smirked at her but decided to let it go. She clearly had her own issues, and he wasn't interested in adding more to her plate. "Thanks for asking. I feel sore all over my body, but I know that he will help me reach my goal, so I'm feeling very motivated." Arya sighed with great relief when she heard he wasn't going to seriously accuse her. Then, she glanced at him again. "Soreness isn't good. Do you maybe want me to help you stretch?" This time, she gave him a beautiful smile, but he felt the desperation that was badly hidden behind it. Caden grimaced inwardly. Liam told him yesterday that trainers had no fixed salary and only got paid when they were on the clock with a client. Thus, her offer was either purely out of the goodness of her heart, or she still wanted to poach him. He wasn't born yesterday, so he knew that chances were that it was the latter. Sure, but I'm not going to be changing trainers, and that's a fact. Arya sighed dejectedly once again. I'm sorry, but I just remembered that I have something to do. Caden chuckled, and, to be honest, he felt very proud because not only were his instincts proven to be spot on, but he managed to resist her overwhelming feminine charms as well. Don't worry about it. I don't know why you need money so desperately, and I'm not going to ask. With that being said, I have been presented with an opportunity you might want to jump on just like I did. Seeing the interest in her eyes, Caden knew she was interested. Liam had introduced me to a bar that needs serving staff during the night shift. I could introduce you if you would like me to. For the record, the owner is almost as ripped as Liam and looks a lot meaner. So you don't have to worry about guests being touchy. He's there throughout the entirety of the night shift. Her expression changed as she heard his offer. At the beginning of it, she was miserable, then curious, after which she turned hopeful. Her near-lifeless eyes sparkled a tiny bit as she said, I think I might take you up on your offer. Can you maybe introduce me personally? I'm not good with phone calls, and Liam already looks very scary to me. So if this guy is even worse, then... Caden didn't expect such a bombshell, who worked a very social job, to act so shyly, but he had no issues with accommodating her request. Sure, I'm going there at 10 p.m. Is that good for you? Yes, should be. I mean, I usually go to sleep at that time, but I need the money, so... Arya responded wryly. Caden didn't react to what she said, instead simply deciding to ask for her phone number so that he could send her the details. She had no objections and happily typed it into his phone. Although it wasn't for the reason he wanted, Caden finally scored the number of a gorgeous girl. As far as he was concerned, it was a big achievement. A conversation that started as a short, business-oriented messaging session may end up going a long mile. Anyhow, this month wasn't about picking up girls but training. Caden wasn't going to desperately chat her up like a horn dog. Her mind was clearly not worried about dating either but making money anyway. He would be shot down mercilessly, he could tell instinctively. Caden instead grabbed his earphones, put them in his ear, and began playing some blood-pumping battle OSTs. They were perfect to get him into the mood that was required to torture his body for a better tomorrow. Once he was done with the gym, Caden went home and cooked a chicken and rice meal with a serving of greens on the side. He had preferred stuff like pizza and burgers, but he knew that they were unhealthy. His previous self didn't care much because he had no goals and was just going through the motions of life like a robot. Now, however, with an amazing, exciting goal in mind, he had no trouble eating healthy. All he needed was motivation. After cooking his meal, he rested and decided to do some research on the Untainted Whole studio that the system wanted him to audition for. He checked their website first and saw that all content was behind a paywall. For now, Caden read through the front page of their website. As the system had alluded to, and as the name of the company implied, they specialized in teen porn, where young adult women would get a big sum of money for agreeing to lose their virginity on camera. Now that he thought about it on a deeper level, a new emotion had surged within Caden's heart. He knew that if he were to take the virginity of a girl, whether during a porn shoot or not, he wouldn't be able to take it well if she went on to have sex with others. He wasn't cold-hearted enough not to develop at least some minor feelings towards such a girl. It was one thing if he had a video shoot with an established actress, but if he was going to be the first man in a woman's life. As for the company's business model, after the initial shoot, the women would typically go on to get contracted with the studio for a few years, where they would continue shooting teen porn, likely for a much lower compensation than the initial offer, after which they would be let go. Naturally, they were free to not sign a long-term contract after the initial shoot, as that was only a one-off deal, but a lot decided to anyway. If they were down on their luck to this degree, then chances were, the couple $1,000s they get for their debut video wouldn't be enough to change their lives. Thus, many had to become professionals. Of course, it was also possible that they were like him, who simply didn't care about having their bodies shown off on the net and were happy to become rich by having fun in bed. It wasn't a bad idea in his mind. The nature of the occupation was just clashing against the traditional values of society. As for the exclusivity of the site, it wasn't much. They uploaded short videos that consisted of a few minute-long clips to all the big, free sites as a form of cheap promotion. Therefore, he could watch some content without having to pay. He did just that as he checked a couple of videos and saw that the studio was professional with their equipment, location, filming crew, and all that jazz. However, their views weren't all that high for some reason. He also found that this studio was part of a much bigger adult filming giant, who were the owners of the company. XXXVids was the name, and they owned multiple smaller studios like this one. Well, this much research is enough for now, Caden muttered, then stood to stretch his sore limbs and leave the apartment. Although he didn't know it yet, it was time to once again meet his friendly neighbor, NSFW Art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. As he stepped outside of his small dorm room and turned the key to lock it, he came face to face with David. David was his dorm neighbor and a person he had known since they were in kindergarten, which meant that there were roughly 19 years of shared history between the two. One might expect them to be good friends or at least supportive acquaintances. That was far from the truth. In kindergarten, David brought in his favorite toy to play with after lunch when they would have free activities and started boasting about how cool it was. Caden got jealous and decided to break it because he didn't have such a badass toy robot. Naturally, David got mad and, after a lot of crying, snitched on him to their teacher, resulting in Caden having to apologize, his parents buying David a replica of the toy, and he also got a lot of flack for it at home from his father. The young Caden knew that he was in the wrong but didn't care much. So despite his forced apology, their relationship never got any better. In elementary school, they were rivals on getting the best grades. In middle school, they competed to be better than the other at basketball, and in high school they were crushing on the same girl. Both got rejected. Now that they were in college, all their rivalries reached new heights when Caden beat David's highest rank in a competitive game when he reached Gold 3. Yes, they both were very average gamers. David was also the guy who shouted at him to shut up while banging his walls when he was getting his penis torn to shreds and restructured by the system. Caden raised an eyebrow when he examined David, who was smugly smirking at him. It wasn't hard to decipher why he was in such a jolly mood. A girl was endearingly latched onto his arm. "Caden, my good friend, how have you been?" David inquired haughtily in a posh tone, as if they were wealthy business partners seeing each other after returning from a holiday trip to Hawaii. The porn star wannabe, instead of entertaining him with an answer, decided to check the girl out. She definitely wasn't a monumental victory. Calling her chubby would be generous. She was just plain fat. Though going by modern standards, she wasn't close to being morbidly rotund, just plus-sized. She had dark hair, freckles on her cheeks, and quite small breasts compared to the rest of her overwhelming curves. She wasn't a complete monster, though. Caden would honestly give her a score of 2.5 out of 10. Just barely fuckable if one was truly desperate or had enough alcohol present in their system to remove all of their inhibitions. "Are you done checking my girl out? Meet Becky." We ran into each other on campus, and it was love at first sight. "Becky, meet Caden, a guy I have known since kindergarten." Caden nodded to the girl before amicably offering his congratulations to the pair. "Hey, nice to meet you. Kudos to both of you." He knew that showing any signs of care, be that jealousy or anger, would be playing right into what David wanted him to do. Yes, his girl wasn't hot, not at all, but she was still a girl. It didn't feel good to be the loser of the race to score a chick. But Caden was never desperate enough to go for ugly gals like this one. He shot for the stars with each attempt of his, but like Icarus, his wings always melted before he could reach the sun. "Hey, David told me some things about you." She greeted him back with a wry smile. "All good things, I imagine." He chuckled, to which she grimaced, letting Caden know that David had been trash-talking him. Well, not that he cared. Sadly, David was a rather smart guy, or at least academically gifted, as he was one of the top students in their economics major. Caden got disillusioned with the degree and wasn't giving it his all to get good grades. so he was now the loser on both the personal and professional end of their nerdy rivalry. Well, enjoy yourselves. I'm off to train. Bye, Caden. It was nice meeting you. Sure, man. Have fun, David said lastly, but as they went past each other, he brushed his shoulder into Caden's and leaned in to whisper, I'm going to be the one who loses his V card first, Browski. It will happen today. You're making beating you in all aspects of life too easy nowadays. I'm honestly starting to get bored. Caden paused for a moment and glanced back towards the retreating form of the pair as they went into David's dorm room together. I could have lost it ages ago if I lowered my standards to a hippo, you fuckface. Caden could have said this out loud and probably even come out victorious from their ensuing argument, but he was too classy of a guy to say this in front of Becky. She didn't deserve to be berated just because the two men had beef with each other. Caden knew that ugly girls like her tended to be heavily insecure about their looks, so he could really hurt her heart if he were to speak back to David in that scenario. The war between them didn't need to have innocent casualties. In the next moment he just shrugged his shoulders. Caden had much bigger things to worry about, and there was a chance that he could take a gorgeous girl's virginity by the end of the month if he succeeded in the tutorial mission of the system and get paid while doing so. Play the long game, Caden. He reassured himself, then stepped out of the dorm and went for a walk. He came back to his room after an hour. There was still a lot of time left until his shift at Bruno's bar, so he slumped into his bed and then opened his systemic interface. Ever since the apocalypse, all humans had access to this status window that displayed their relevant information. However, for non-awakened people, meaning the commoners, this window didn't display much. In Caden's case, it used to be as such. Name, Caden Ashbourne, class, dash, level, dash. However, ever since he managed to slip on the banana peel like a certified boss, a few lines were added. Name, Caden Ashbourne, rank, 0 worm, class, dash, level, dash. Tutorial mission. Stop being pathetic, fuck virgins for a living. Side quest, training arc. When a commoner awakened, they would receive a class, which meant that despite getting a system, he still wasn't an awakened since he didn't have a class. Classes were categorized into tiers, going from F to S in most cases. Awakened were soft-locked regarding their potential depending on the class they got. Someone with an F-ranked class would quickly fall behind one that got an S-ranked one if they put in the same amount of effort and had the same amount of innate talent and general luck. Levels served as a measuring tool of progression. Awakeners had to kill dungeon monsters or other awakened in order to gain levels, which would make them stronger. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Commoners not only didn't have a class, but they couldn't even level up. A just awakened person would not have level, like Caden, but level 1 displayed in their status window, which would mean that they were allowed to begin their journey as an awakened person. Caden, as a commoner, preferred to put his head into the proverbial sand like an ostrich and pretend this entire world of the supernatural didn't exist. He was seething with jealousy towards the high-tier awakened people who were making money like never before, forming teams, having gorgeous babes jumping straight into their laps, and fighting epic battles while he was learning about shitty economic theories. Once it was clear that Caden wouldn't awaken due to his age reaching 20, he moved away from home into this dorm room and started college like a normie. Now, however, he no longer hated the world since he got something perhaps even better than what other people had. Well, in a sense. Caden didn't think that the porn star system would let him fight monsters or mighty humans, but at least it was something supernatural. He no longer felt like a useless commoner who was unlucky enough not to awaken. With his psyche settled into one of extreme serenity, Caden used his mind to navigate to one area of his interface that he didn't know much about. Rank, 0 worm. Once he expanded this line, he got a description. Ranks are the porn star system's unique tools of progress measurement. The host has to complete quests, reach certain milestones, defeat strong opponents, and the likes to progress. Each tier will allow the host to become a greater entity than before. Currently, the host needs to complete the tutorial mission to progress. Caden couldn't help but frown. Defeat strong opponents? What was he supposed to do? Slap a T-Rex to death with his girthy 9-incher? He had no combat abilities. Wait, they must come with later ranks. That means that I might become strong enough to fight the snobbish awakened losers. Once he realized this, Caden's face brightened like the morning sun. It was a long-standing dream of his to have the ability to stand up for himself. It took him a few minutes to calm down, after which the young man glanced at the tab of the systemic interface. There were 4 main tabs. 1. Status, the tab that displayed personal information. 2. Marketplace. People could buy and sell items through the system. Mundane items couldn't be put up for bidding, only ones dropped by monsters and found in dungeons, crafted by those of the blacksmith and similar classes, etc. The system didn't work on Earth currency, but one of its own, Chronos. Chronos could be earned through various means, such as opening chests in dungeons, selling loot, making deals with others, and 3. Media, the system's platform to stream or upload videos. The system rewards the content creators with Chronos based on the number of views, but viewers could also donate, or the creator could set a paywall for their videos. Commoners couldn't use this feature to stream or upload, only to view. Well, they couldn't do anything, which was why Caden was so incredibly jealous of the Awakened. A lot of them made a living out of their Chronos that were generated through streaming and uploading videos of their dungeon clears, and big guilds also used it as a ploy to broadcast to the whole world just how great they were. 4. Social, intricate social hub for interactions between people. Forums, chats, etc. All the big guilds were present on the public forums, where they posted their recruitment notices, announcements, and the like. People could also make private chat rooms or forums that were invite-based. A lot of Awakened preferred to use the chat function over messaging apps on their phones because 1. It was just more convenient, and 2. It worked without needing a signal, though it didn't work in the dungeons. Caden opened the media tab and glanced at a stream. It was of a guy that was one of the top earners on the site. Seo Minhyuk, a guy who only had a D-tier class, Paladin, and wasn't even of a high level, but he was a Korean teen idol thingy before the mana apocalypse hit Earth, so he had a lot of female fans. Yes, he had a very pretty face and was a righteous character with a lot of moral lines. Julia, watch out. Get behind me. I will take the hit for you. Grah! Caden winced from sheer cringe and almost closed the stream out of instinct, but he persevered through pure force of will. How did Caden understand what nonsense Minhyuk was spouting every time he opened his lousy mouth? The system had automatic, instant translation. When 2 Awakened spoke to each other, the language barrier ceased to exist, and if a commoner watched their stream, they also understood the streamer's words. The chat suddenly went ballistic as viewers began typing, "Kya! Minhyuk! So cool! I love you!" and the like. Caden never understood the obsession Koreans adored their idols with, but he could only shrug his shoulders. To each their own. He was training to become a porn star, so he wasn't any less of an eccentric in the end. Once the idol guy deflected the monster's attack, donations began rolling in. Caden quickly became very jealous, so he closed the stream. Minhyuk got more wealth in a minute than he would earn at his current waiter job in a year. If Caden kept on watching, he would have added a few cents worth of Chronos to his coffers, which he simply refused to do. Instead, he ventured to find a type of content on the Awakened media platform that was not about dungeons and badass Awakened but rather Awakened with good assets. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Caden began searching for one of the lesser-viewed streams with a female streamer. He settled on one that had a girl with an F-tier class, Gardener. People could awaken with non-combat classes, but even in that category, a few were highly sought after, like the B-tier blacksmith, while some were straight-up trash. Gardener, of course, was a useless class. It was more or less the extreme budget version of the druid class. It just let the girl plant slightly more effectively. Maybe it would do something at higher levels, but there were no cases of it doing anything noteworthy. He wasn't here for that, though. From the stream's thumbnail, he could see that she had a very alluring, shapely behind, which was heavily the focus of her camera. Awakeners could purchase specific artifact-like cameras that would follow them around and record what they were doing from behind, like an AI-driven drone that needed mana as a form of energy to function instead of electricity. The girl smartly used the camera to create a stream that was chill to watch. She had music playing from a device next to her, and she was humming along the lyrics in a soft voice while she squatted, tending to her garden. Caden brought Evangeline out of his closet, whipped his best friend out, lubed up, and went to town while eyeing the garden girl's bubbly butt. Why not watch real porn instead of this softcore stream? Simply because he didn't feel like it. Sometimes such girls could be hotter than actual actresses who were in the middle of getting ravaged, or so he thought. It all depended on his mood. Once he was finished with his business, the time came to go to work, so he called Arya, who picked up fast. Caden could hear a young girl happily screaming about something in the background and Arya trying to quieten her down. They met at Bruno's and he introduced her. The bar owner was happy to employ Arya. The night went down without hiccups. Arya was a timid, serene woman who liked to live in her own little world. Now that she had no potential trainees to appeal to, she retreated into her shell, preferring not to interact much at all, but she did her best at the job. However, when Caden finished his shift, his phone buzzed as soon as he stepped out of the bar's doors. He got a chat message. Arya, hey, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity you've given me with this waitress job, and I also want to say that I'm really sorry for trying to poach you from Liam. Sleep well, and see you tomorrow at the gym. Caden chuckled and glanced back at the bar. Through the windows, he could see Arya watching him sheepishly. She would do 6-hour shifts while he only did 4, so she stayed behind. Arya is this shy in reality, huh? He waved his hand at her while smiling instead of replying in chat, and she bashfully, and very reluctantly replicated his actions. How cute, Caden thought. The next week passed just as such. He would wake up, cook a healthy breakfast, stretch a bit, go to the gym, cook lunch, plow Evangeline, eat dinner, and finish his day at Bruno's bar. Caden got into the rhythm of his daily routine, and he had the most fun in his entire life. Ever since the apocalypse hit, he had been stressed about wanting to awaken, and the older he got, the less happy he was. Especially so when his siblings kept awakening one after the other. Once he turned 20, the statistical age at which people had less than 0.0001% to awaken, it all worsened. He hated college, his degree was boring, and he didn't have much of a social life. Now, however, Caden had goals, things to strive for. He woke up with a purpose in his mind and was as happy as ever. He had also gotten pretty used to Liam's training regimen and no longer had muscle soreness all over his body. Another new development was the post on the Untainted Holes website, where they were looking for young male actors. Females were always welcome, as long as they were young, good-looking, and virgins, but males weren't the last time he checked. Now things have changed. The system is scary. It predicted this a week ahead of time. Maybe it gained access to some internal emails where this development was already in the works? Caden shivered for a moment while he thought about how omnipotent this system seemed right now. He registered on the website and called the indicated number. A woman picked up. She had a very businesslike, matter-of-factly tone. She asked him to send his documents over in the form of a chat message, as well as pictures of his naked body. Supposedly, if he had an adult film portfolio, the latter part wouldn't be needed, but as it would be his first casting, he had no choice. Sadly, he couldn't observe her reaction to seeing his erect member, but she did send a thumbs-up emoji as a reply. Whether it was to be understood as, "Wow, such a nice cock," or "You passed the eye test, candidate," was difficult to ascertain through this reserved reaction. She then notified him that the casting would happen in 3 weeks and that he would need to pass a final test before he got a role in a single video, after which further discussions could be held about a longer contract. If he passed the second selection test, his pay would be $300, and the shooting was expected to take between 4 to 8 hours of his time. Not bad for a single day's work as a no-name rookie whose job would be to take a sexy girl's first time. If he did well, he would hopefully get even better offers from other studios, though another path he could follow started brewing in the back of his head, one that would lead him down a path of independence and entrepreneurship. First, however, he had to make some acquaintances and get his name out there. And even if he were to continue being underpaid compared to the industry standard rates, he couldn't care much. After all, He was significantly more focused on progressing in the system's quests and earning new ranks. Money was good, yes, but it was only secondary when one had a scary but almighty entity inside their soul. Ha! David! Keep it up. You're so good. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Becky's screams reverberated through his dorm walls from the room adjacent to his. Sadly, the walls were made from cheap, thin materials. They've been doing this throughout the past week. Caden didn't know if it was David asking her in order to keep telling his rival that he had a girl while Caden didn't. Or maybe it was just Becky doing it because she was insecure and worried about David leaving her. While David was a certified nerd, he wasn't a 2.5 out of 10 kind of guy, so Becky might have been thinking that she had to satisfy his wishes lest he start looking for a hotter girl than her. When they first started doing it, Caden was pissed due to David's antics, but now he just felt serenity. David had lowered his standards to this degree, so in his head, Caden was the victor of their battle. If he kept his training regiment up, he would sooner or later score a hot babe that would make David seethe from pure envy, and that was inevitable in Caden's head. He would get a gorgeous girl. The question was not if but when. Anyhow, he started blasting a loop of Nyan Cat on his speaker that was turned towards David's wall and left the room. Bang bang bang. Turn it off, you filthy fucking weeb, David screeched, but Caden only smirked with satisfaction as he strolled towards today's destination. The eccentric man decided that it was time to step up his game, so he visited a barber to get a fashionable cut and then spent a portion of his pay on a trendy outfit. He settled on a casual, slim-fit suit and trousers combo with a black dress shirt underneath. If he didn't button the suit together as well as the top button of the shirt and wore no tie, it would be trendy and modern rather than stiff and too elegant. He wanted to look like a young man who could dress up well, not a posh, all too self-important asshole or some boring accountant. Caden loved his new look, and he knew that after a bit of training with Liam, he would be a real lady killer. As for his training arc side quest, well, it was not progressing as well as he wanted it to. In a week, he achieved the following. Training arc: use adult toys to become sufficient in thrusting movements 45%, sucking resistance 2%, bed stamina 5%. Time limit: 3 weeks. His next stop was the adult toy shop. Even though the generic premium life-size fleshlight was good, and it certainly felt significantly better than the company of his right hand, his side quest wasn't progressing much besides the thrust movements part. On a positive note, Caden could tell that he was truly getting better at it. The system wasn't just showing some artificial percentages. Yeah, Luna, you were right. That new vibrator you recommended last time sent me to heaven and back. I almost became religious, I swear. Do you have something for my butt too? I want to stimulate both dash. A sexy MILF-type woman was raving on and on with an ecstatic grin to Luna, who was listening to her detailing when Caden stepped into the shop. The woman snapped her head as soon as she heard the door's movement and tightly sealed her blabbering mouth shut. Luna, however, wasn't very socially adept, simply didn't care, or was poking fun at the woman as when she spoke up, she had a mischievous look on her face. So, Anna, you want some anal toys? How about a sizable string of beads? Let me tell you, when you pull it out, you will shriek like a banshee dash. Shoo! Anna nearly slapped Luna due to the speed with which she put a hand on her traitorous mouth. Such a handsome young gentleman had just stepped through, and this girl was deliberately embarrassing her. Indeed, Caden felt good about himself in his new fit, so he didn't bother changing back to his previous clothes, making him look very presentable. Although the lady had no plans to go anywhere with him, she was still a woman who was conscious of her image and didn't want such a hot guy to think weirdly of her. Hi! Luna welcomed Caden. What can I help you with? She then suddenly trailed off, visibly deep in thought. Have I met you before? Sorry, I'm pretty good at remembering people. I bought a male masturbator, a liter of lube, and that radiator stick thingy last week. He revealed without an ounce of shame in his tone, shocking Anna greatly. How can he be so shameless? In front of 2 good-looking girls at that? Or was she too old to be even considered as such? Yes, Anna was going through her midlife crisis. Oh, you look good. Luna shouted energetically now that she realized why he seemed so familiar. I dig your new hair. Caden was taken aback for a moment. It was the first time a sexy girl genuinely complimented him, after all. He was happy to see how much of a difference such small gestures resulted in, though. Be that as it may, he also understood that the strange purple-haired gal wasn't interested romantically, so he didn't take it as her flirting with him. She just had a severe mouth filter deficiency and said anything she wanted out loud. It was time to purchase his next toy to succeed in the side quest. But Caden could never guess how weird this visit of his to the adult store would end up becoming. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Thanks, Caden replied to Luna's compliment, then glanced at Anna and offered, Go ahead, lady, continue your talk. You were here first, after all. Over my dead body, she suddenly yelled, then gasped, Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to shout. Please go ahead. Old ladies like me have all the time in the world. You must have places to be at. Caden examined the embarrassed woman with scrutinizing eyes, making her squirm all over her body. But in the end, he just shrugged his shoulders and moved on. Luna, I'm happy with what you recommended last time, but I want something more specific. The girl's eyes suddenly lit up as if she just received a super top-secret mission. I need more details to go on. I want something great at replicating the sucking force of an experienced woman's fellatio. I have to increase my resistance against their bewitching lips and slithering tongues. I thought about putting my precious Excalibur in the vacuum cleaner, but I imagine you have something more fitting and less dangerous for the job. So I came to you first, Caden revealed, making Anna gasp from sheer shock while Luna only nodded in understanding. Yes, I get it. Truly, it would be embarrassing if you weren't prepared and your partner managed to finish you off in a few strokes of her tongue. She massaged her chin for a few seconds between her thumb and index finger, after which her eyes lit up. Do you two have no shame whatsoever? Anna yelped in fright. Since when did the next generation become so brazen? She thought that this guy would be a romantic man, but here he was, uttering crazier and crazier words one after the other. She was already used to Luna's antics, but she didn't think that the eccentric girl would meet her match in the department of shamelessness. Both easily ignored the mature woman's uncalled outburst. Luna rushed to a shelf and got a box. Fleshlight Ultra Thrust, she shouted and raised the item above her head, as if it was a divine artifact that she just revealed the existence of to the world. It specializes in exactly what you want since it's designed to replicate the intense, intricate sensations of oral pleasure, specifically targeting that sucking force you're looking for. It's made from a material that's not only soft and smooth, but enhances the realistic sensation to make it similar to a human skin. As Caden examined the packaging, he could already feel that this device was going to push him to his limits. Anna, meanwhile, turned a deep shade of crimson as she struggled to process how openly these two discussed such private details, easily ignoring the fact that she was doing the same before Caden entered the store. Luna's enthusiasm wasn't to be stifled, though. Once you use it, you'll be able to handle any woman's oral skills for a respectable duration. At least so the reviews claim. Believe me, I'd nearly pay anything to have the ability to ascertain their validity myself. But alas, she grimaced and gestured dejectedly towards her crotch area, where there was a severe lack of a bulge that would indicate the existence of a certain tool. Caden gave an understanding nod. I get your sorrow, Luna. I would rope myself if I were to lose it, to be honest. I also can't even begin to imagine living as a woman. The purple-haired beauty coyly shook her head with a mysterious smile emerging on her delicate lips as she replied, I might daydream about having a weapon down there from time to time, but I would never give up on being a woman. Certain pleasures in this world can only be achieved by being born female. My toy collection has brought me such ecstatic experiences I doubt you would understand, let alone ever get to feel for yourself. Luna, behave yourself at least a bit. He's a young guy. Maybe you two could go on a date, so you get to experience reality for once instead of the cold company of your toys. Anna begged but was instantly shut down. Not happening. Caden wasn't overly affected by her refusal. Okay, that was a big, fat lie. He might have been rejected multiple times by hot girls before, but first of all, he didn't even ask her out this time, so it hurt twice as much. Furthermore, he felt very good about himself since getting his system, especially with his new fit and style, so he wasn't ready to be dismissed like he used to. As a result, Caden scoffed. Lady, I have to agree with Luna. She is too petite of a girl to be a proper sheath for my Zweihander. You could say that we are physically incompatible. Ha! The girl in question roared arrogantly, surprising Caden and making Anna sigh dejectedly, already knowing what Luna's issue was. I will have you know, I'm proud of my kitty's capacity. I trained her myself. Unless you're packing a certified world wonder in your pants, I would have no trouble whatsoever. Bet? Caden asked with a similar level of arrogance in his tone, forcing Luna to become serious for the first time in a long while. She entered a state of deep contemplation. After a minute of stroking her chin, she nodded. I'm in, but I won't open my legs just like this. I'm not a slut. I won't give away myself for a bet. The wager will be about you showing me your thing and me deciding whether I could take it or not. I will be completely honest. I swear on my cherished toy collection's continued existence. Caden accepted her conditions without a second thought. All right, if I win, I want you to go on a proper date with me sometime in the future. The purple-haired beauty nodded. Fine with me. If I win, I want you to try 10 toys of my choosing in front of me, where I get to watch to my heart's content. Ha! Anna shrieked before whimpering dejectedly. Have some decorum, please. He asked for such a romantic gesture. But here you are, ruining this movie-like moment. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Yes, the mature woman was having more and more fun by the second. Who would have guessed her visit to an adult toy shop would be derailed so wonderfully? Was she being filmed by a movie crew? She wasn't complaining, though, that was for certain. I'm not putting anything in my bum, Caden decreed, making both women blush furiously. Luna rushed to clarify his misunderstanding. I meant toys that were meant to stimulate the male member. I'm curious about how it looks when a guy uses them. I don't like watching such videos on the net, and they wouldn't be as descriptive as I want them anyways. Deal, Caden agreed and reached out towards her hand, asking for a handshake to seal the deal. Luna shook his limb energetically, letting the man feel her small, delicate hand in his own. So what now? Anna asked, eager to see how the show would continue to unfold. Her query was answered when the pair moved in sync as if they were in mental communication with each other. Caden began unzipping his pants while Luna rushed to the door and put an on lunch break sign on it, as well as rolling the shaders down on the windows. By the time she returned, Caden was already half naked, with his member freed from its cruel confines. He rested it in his palm. Oh, it's so much bigger than my deadbeat husband's, Anna shouted excitedly. Yeah, not bad, but I could clear it confidently, Luna revealed smugly. Did Caden lose the bet? Nope, not yet. He smirked at the purple-haired girl victoriously before smugly declaring, It's sleeping. Both girls frowned simultaneously, not understanding his meaning. My dragon had not yet been awoken. It's waiting to be challenged for a duel by a worthy foe, Caden explained. I don't understand this Gen Z talk. Anna whined like a schoolgirl who was pissed off for not understanding the newest juicy gossip that was making the rounds in class. He is claiming that his penis isn't fully erect yet, Luna clarified for the older woman while eyeing the organ in question, with disbelief evident in her eyes. It's already like 6.5 inches. You don't need to be embarrassed about your size, Caden. You're definitely above average. Bigger than this? The older woman yelped, but her curiosity couldn't be denied as she stared at the slumbering monster, awaiting its awakening with peeled eyes. How about some help, ladies? Caden asked but was mercilessly shut down. Sorry, I'm married. Nope. Nice try, though. He expected this response, so he could only sigh and begin stroking it while examining the girl who didn't have an engagement ring on her finger. Such a fine gentleman you are, Caden. Humph. Luna scoffed when she realized that she was being used as living fat material but made no moves to hide herself or berate him any further. Although she was covered up, Caden liked how Luna looked a lot. She was a delicate girl with a unique appearance. She didn't have giant bazookas adorning her chest, but neither was she flat as a board. Furthermore, Caden could appreciate girls of any size. He wasn't picky in the boob sizes department. Holy Mother of God! Anna exclaimed when the 9-incher greeted her with wild twitching, as if it was waving hello at her. Luna, for her part, opened and closed her mouth repeatedly, as if she were a dumb fish that suddenly got pulled out of the water. This has got to be surgically elongated, she yelled, refusing to accept defeat. The purple-haired girl reached forward and grabbed it in both of her palms. Her hands were so delicate that she had trouble gripping his girthy shaft properly. She didn't know how to look for evidence of plastic surgery, as this was the first time the girl had ever touched a real member. So she was as lost as one could be. Anna, help me. You should be able to find evidence of forgery with your body count. Luna yelled. Oh dear God. The older woman murmured but bashfully accepted the invitation. It's so warm and pretty. Indeed, it was perfectly proportional, just like the system promised. Even the veins are sexy. Thank God for the existence of man-made toys, because if I had to go home to my husband after getting to know the existence of something of this magnificence, I would become more miserable than I already am. Luna, it's real. I'm sure of it. So, could Miss I'm proud of my kitty's capacity take it? Hypothetically, of course. Caden inquired rather smugly. Don't call me that. Also, I could. She then shook her head. Okay. No, even I'm not shameless enough to claim something outrageous like this. You win, Caden. Here's my number, Luna said, then grabbed a pen and wrote it on his hand, after which she glanced at him bashfully. I'm truly not a slut. Please don't think badly of me, but could I ask for a favor? Shoot. Can I take a picture? Go ahead. Caden was not a shy person, and if he wanted to become a porn star, then this much shouldn't cause him any issues. Luna fumbled around in her jacket's inner pocket for a few moments before bringing a phone out. She properly grabbed onto his member with her free hand, creating a great contrast as her small hand further showcased its overbearing size. Click, she snapped a picture and then began examining it. Somehow, she wasn't all that happy with the result. It looked much better in real life. I have a better idea, my future date. Caden spoke up suddenly. What is it? Luna responded, not even caring enough to look up from her phone. I will snap a pic for you. And why would your take turn out better than mine? Because your beautiful face will be in the frame as well. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. I will snap a pic for you. And why would your take turn out better than mine? Because your beautiful face will be in the frame as well. Luna's eyes shot up from her phone to check if this crazy guy was joking with her. He had a confident, amused expression on his face, but it was clear that he was serious about his statement. Don't treat me like I'm your girlfriend whom you've been dating for years, Caden. I know that I asked for a very personal favor, but you should be a bit more respectful, or I will bring my elder brother along on our date. After all, we never specified that I would come alone. She threatened while glaring daggers at him. The man in question raised both hands in surrender. I was just trying to be of assistance. Luna continued to eye him for a good 10 seconds, but seeing the sincerity in his expression, she decided that he wasn't just trying to get her permission to fulfill some sexual fantasy of his. He truly had a plan he believed in. All right, I will hear you out. What do you suggest? Caden smiled happily at her acceptance and said, Get on your knees and leave everything else to me. His words caused another fierce stare down to happen between the two as she stood frozen for a good minute before finally reluctantly doing as told. She handed her phone over and let go of his member, then kneeled in front of him. Caden grabbed onto his erect shaft and gently placed it against her face. He desperately wanted to be more enthusiastic with his movements, ideally forcefully slapping her with his cock, but knew that she wouldn't be very appreciative of the gesture. He desperately fought back against his inner demons and managed to triumph after a bloody battle. What are you doing? The gorgeous girl stammered with sheer shock evident in her tone. Say cheese, Luna. Caden ignored her outburst and instead snapped a picture with his member resting right against her delicate face. It was so long that it went from below her chin all the way to the top of her head. What is going on? The girl in question muttered, this time more so to herself than the shameless young man who was using her face as a convenient resting place for his ginormous shaft. Caden checked the result, and he wasn't happy with it, evidenced by the clicking of his tongue. TCH, Luna, you're not smiling at all. How could I possibly snap a good picture if you were looking like a child who just learned that the fat and old Santa from Scandinavia didn't personally climb down her dirty chimney to give her presents in exchange for a glass of room-temperature milk and mushy cookies? Seeing that he was truly frustrated with her for some reason, the young girl gulped nervously before meekly responding, sorry, do it again. Luna was going through a myriad of thoughts right this moment, mainly questioning why she was acting so docilely and why she was even accommodating him in the first place. All right, since your hands are free, I want to see 2 victory signs next to your cheeks while you're smiling brilliantly. She very reluctantly did as told with hands that were trembling due to a mixture of embarrassment, excitement, and just sheer bewilderment. Who would have guessed that her mundane day would turn out as such? She just had to close up shop in a few hours and go home to play some computer games. But here she was, kneeling under some guy who was taking pictures of her posing with his big, fat cock. Luna smiled as instructed, but her expression resembled her feelings, so it was a thoroughly confused smile. Caden found her to be very adorable, though. How cute! He commented inwardly as he snapped a few pics while smirking at the otherworldly display he was seeing. How are they? She asked after standing up with shaky legs. Amazing. Check them out. The purple-haired beauty grabbed her phone from his hands and inspected the pictures. Her eyes widened, and her little sister twitched slightly at the sight she was seeing. Is this truly me? Luna asked, not at all recognizing herself in the picture. It was so slutty, shameless, humiliating, but at the same time she couldn't deny that she also noticed that she was distinctly excited and strangely happy in the pictures. Can you send them to me? Caden asked in a hopeful tone. Ha! You wish. The petite girl had gained some of her sass back as she cruelly shot the hopeful guy down. Come on. I'm part of the picture. I deserve it. Part of the picture. Only your penis is in the picture, while my entire shameful face is visible. Well, the parts that aren't hidden by your thing. I know how boastful guys are. You would send it to all your friends, and I would have my most embarrassing picture widespread all over the internet within 30 minutes of me sending it to you. Caden could only sigh dejectedly. He knew that Luna was right, not in that he would do as she claimed, but that she couldn't trust him. They barely spent 20 minutes in each other's presence. Thus, he wouldn't oblige his request in her stead either. Seeing his sorrowed expression, the girl unexpectedly muttered something under her breath with rosy cheeks. Something that shocked both listeners. Maybe if you earn my trust. Can I get one too? Anna spoke up next. Her expression was even more bashful than the Luna's. Caden chuckled but nodded amicably. Of course. The lady handed her phone over and obediently kneeled in front of his member without even being instructed to, then reached for his shaft and placed it on her face herself. Caden couldn't help but sense some desperate sniffing action going on throughout the entire photography session. Once he snapped a few dozen pics, Caden handed the phone back, and the older woman found herself facing the urge to set a new background image. She was defeated by her inner demons within the first clash of their swords. After all, her husband would never dare check her phone. I'll change it back in a few hours, she promised to herself. Okay, maybe a few days. Make that a week. Anna would not change her phone background for the rest of her life. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. With his business concluded, Caden left the store, though he did leave a remark for the older woman in a cheeky tone. "I heard good things about anal beads. Just make sure you don't pull too eagerly and use enough lube." Before he closed the door behind himself, he could hear her screaming at the younger girl while aggressively shaking her by the shoulders. "Luna!" He heard it. "Oh, my pristine image. I think your perceived image was already in ruins ever since you decided to crawl in front of a stranger's cock like a hungry whore. What kind of married woman does that?" Caden could only laugh to himself amusedly at the antics of these ladies as the door fully closed, sealing their conversation away from his ears. He rushed home to try the new toy out because he was pent up from today's strange events like never before. Two sexy babes not only touched his member but even posed with it. It was the hottest image he ever laid his eyes on. Caden might not have physical ownership over the pictures, but he sure as hell would remember the ones his mind captured. Those were his and no one could ever take it away. As for his battle against Fleshlight Turbo THR*ST, well, it was a short duel in which he raised the white flag within seconds. Luna didn't lie, the sucking power in this thing was something else. Compared to the more ordinary fleshlight he bought before, it was a whole new world. Caden wasn't a one-pump chump ever since his crotch's transformation, so he went a few more times, but his results weren't anything to write home about. Another week passed in the blink of an eye as Caden truly settled into the new rhythm of his changed life. His training with Liam brought results he never would have thought possible within this short of a time frame. His definition was already showing, and he also lost some fat while putting on a respectable amount of muscle. Of course, Caden was still far from his dream physique, but he was no longer the average, casual gym-goer. His progress was so remarkably swift that even Liam commented on it as bordering supernatural. More and more people shot admiring glances his way when he used the treadmill or the weights. As for his night job, it went seamlessly. Bruno was a great boss to have. He gave him no trouble. In fact, the burly man was grateful for his help and especially for introducing Arya to the bar. As for the girl in question, she wasn't looking too good. Arya went from working 6 hours to taking on a full 8-hour shift, and she continued working as a trainer in the gym as well. Although she didn't have many clients there, *gram model type chicks tended to choose her. Such women were Arya's ideal trainee candidates since they wanted to become as gorgeous as the silver-haired beauty, and unlike members of the average female populace, they had the genes to dare dream of achieving such lofty goals, making them determined instead of jealous and depressed. Caden didn't know how she managed to legalize these working hours as the law strictly forbade such a work schedule, but he guessed that Bruno agreed to help her out by not declaring her real hours spent working at the bar. She went from quiet but bubbly and cheerful to just straight up exhausted with heavy dark circles under her eyes, and she even began making more mistakes during work. When Caden asked if there was something he could do to help, she brushed him off. Therefore, he couldn't do much even if he wanted to. As for the training arc side quest, he made some progress. Training arc: use adult toys to become sufficient in thrusting movements 60%, sucking resistance 45%, bed stamina 12%. Time limit: 2 weeks. It was clear that he needed a third specialized toy to have a chance at success. With that, he stood and walked to the store. To his dismay, the sight of a hairy, fat dude welcomed him instead of the eccentric beauty. Caden didn't invite Luna for a date yet, mostly because he was so immersed in his activities that he didn't have the proper amount of energy a wonderful girl like her deserved. He didn't want to have his first real date with a cutie to end up being half-assed. Caden thought it might be good to have a chat with the girl now, but alas, it wasn't meant to be. He didn't feel like asking for suggestions from such an ugly nerd, so he instead just Googled for a solution for his troubles, though he was very sad that he couldn't get the thoughts of Luna regarding the topic. Caden ended up getting a stamina trainer unit, something that would surely help him in the final part of the side quest. With all 3 toys in his possession, he felt confident. He snapped a picture of the box of his newest acquisition and sent it to Luna. It was their first message. "Caden, hey, this is Caden. I've missed you from the store, but look what I got. Any thoughts on the topic?" It took her about 30 minutes to respond, only sending a thumbs-up emoji. Caden couldn't help but frown. "Caden, everything good?" "Luna, Not really. Caden. Want to talk about it? Luna. Sorry, no. I will also have to postpone our date. I have to deal with a few issues back home. Caden. Alright, let me know if you need anything. His final message got no response. Caden didn't like the feeling he had in the back of his head. Something was wrong, but Luna didn't trust him enough to divulge what the issue was. In the end, Caden could only shrug his shoulders and concentrate on himself. He wasn't an obnoxious guy who suffered from the hero syndrome. Girls like Arya and Luna were their own persons and had every right to deal with their problems in the way they wanted. Furthermore, he already had enough on his plate as is. After all, a mysterious entity invaded his soul, mind, or whatever, and then it resurrected him and began giving off missions to complete in exchange for tantalizing rewards. The following 2 weeks came and went in a similar fashion. Caden learned that both Arya and Luna quit their jobs a few days ago, and he had trouble reaching them over the phone, only getting one-word answers from both or straight up nothing. As for his side mission, plop, Caden disengaged his shaft from the fleshlight, which resulted in a rather lewd sound, and then he heard it. The glorious notification rang in his mind, the thing he wanted to hear all month long. Ding! NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Ding! Side quest. Training arc completed in time. Congratulations, host. Upgrade point gained. Random skill card gained. Nice! Caden shouted victoriously while pumping his arms towards the sky. It was a close call. He had less than a day to finish. He first focused on the upgrade point. Upgrade points can be used to upgrade skills to have stronger effects. The increase in strength depends on luck. Simple, easy to understand concept. Caden liked it. Well, not the RNG part of it. Then he turned his attention to the other reward. Would the host like to use the random skill card? Yes. The card began spinning around in his mind as if it were a real gacha opening in a mobile game. It continued spinning energetically for a few seconds. The card teased him with blurred images of potential skills, though he didn't really understand what he was seeing. Skulls, hearts, weapons, and all kinds of such art were visible but not long enough to make any more details out of them. Finally, the spinning came to a halt, and the chosen card hovered in the center of his mind. A burst of energy shot out as if celebrating the selection alongside the sound effects of energetic drums. The art on the card was that of a happily smiling woman. Then, with a final flash, the card was sucked into his consciousness as if embedding itself deep into his very soul. A message appeared. New skill unlocked. Itir. Remove her inhibitions. Remove her inhibitions. The host can remove his female partner's inhibitions regarding her being filmed during an adult video shoot. The female in question will know that she is being recorded but will not be able to care for the fact, letting her act naturally as she would without the presence of recording equipment and staff. Caden mused. He wasn't all too happy. Most definitely a low roll. No wonder it's E tier. Unlucky. It seemed that the system skills were classed similarly to how the Awakened People's classes were. They went from F to S, meaning the order was F-, E-, D-, C-, B-, A-, S. Whether this tiering also worked for his classes in this exact way wasn't something he could ascertain without opening many more cards, but it seemed at least a good starting point. Alas, he didn't have much time to dawdle around. His tutorial mission was still not finished, and he had only a day to finish. Young lad, you are my favorite trainee. I'm not gonna lie, Liam commented jovially before releasing a torrent of praise. Each time I train someone else, I can't help but think, if this were Caden, he would have put in so much more effort. You've completely ruined the joy of training casuals for me. I had eager guys work with me before, but they got burned out long before the first month was up. You, on the other hand, instead of lessening your efforts, asked for more hours from me. The fruits of your sweat and tears are also clear for all to see. You'd undergone quite a shocking transformation in a mere month. I must tip my proverbial hat to you. The muscular man finished his praise by acting as if he had a hat, which he grabbed from his head and put to his chest while giving a slight bow. Caden wheezed from exhaustion. Thanks. You are an amazing guy yourself, Liam. Caden would be lying if he said that he didn't consider this trainer dude as something like a very casual friend of his. As for Liam's claims of his unnatural speed of muscle growth, Caden didn't know what was going on. Maybe it was just good genetics. At the end of the day, he could only shrug his shoulders. He wasn't a fool who would look a gift horse in its mouth. Caden said his goodbyes, showered, and then rushed home. It was time finally. The casting would begin tomorrow, but first, ding! Tutorial mission. Stop being pathetic completed. Rewards. 1. Better access to the system. 2. Random skill. Love, life-changing decision. Let's go in order. He thought, focusing on the first reward. System rank increased. Rank 0 worm dash. Rank 1 wannabe. New statistics counts gained. These statistics will be used to provide the host with challenges he needs to reach to gain future rewards. 1 views. 2 fangirls. 3 income. Views. A person isn't a star without amassing a massive amount of organic views. Each viewer can only be counted once per video/stream. Botting or manipulation leads to penalties, including system ceiling if the host is involved. If done by a third party without the host's knowledge, boosted views won't count, but no further penalty will be applied. Fangirls. A porn star is just a sad piece of meat if he doesn't have fervent admirers. The host needs to go out of his way to appeal to female viewers/online followers one way or another. The methods used are left up to the host, but they must be genuine fangirls. Income. Amount of currency earned from being featured in films, videos, streams, etc. Only income made from adult content is counted. Income earned through underhanded methods will not count and will be penalized by the ceiling of the system. Currency earned outside of the Awaken platform is converted at a rate of $100 equals 1 income. 1 Chronos equals 1 income. Pretty simple. I guess I just need to become famous and somehow appeal to the ladies. Maybe I can have an Inst*gram account where I interact with them or something. Food for thought. Caden shelved these new features to the back of his mind, focusing on his second reward. Would the host like to use the random skill card? Yes. The same sound and visual effects played in his mind. However, when the final reveal came, the drum beats were a bit more upbeat, and the colors more vibrant. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. New skill unlocked. D tier. Immune cock. Immune cock. The host's male member is immune to all sorts of sexually transmitted illnesses, diseases, debuffs, ailments, etc. Damn. Another sex-related one. I was hoping for a gravity manipulation skill or something. One can dream. He might have grumbled a bit, but it was still a good skill to have. Caden wasn't keen on getting STDs just because the medical staff didn't do their job properly. Though the wording does make it sound to be a bit more nuanced than what initially meets the eye. Maybe with this I could bed a poisonous naga monster lady or something. I don't know why I would want to do such a thing, but I sincerely believe that I could. After all, while me getting my dick evaporated by her poisonous folds wouldn't be a sexual illness, poison is still a form of debuff, so it should be negated by the skill. Caden mused inwardly. He debated about using his upgrade point on his D-tier skill but ended up dismissing such thoughts. He didn't know how hard acquiring more such points was. Now came the final reward. Love, life-changing decision. The porn star system supports 2 paths that both lead to supreme stardom. The host must choose one. First path. Brightest star. Brightest star. The host will be rewarded for the 3 stats. Views, fangirls, income, above all else. He will receive quests that lead him toward landing bigger roles, making acquaintances with important people, bolstering his online image, etc. By the end of the road, the host will be the most famous person in the world, bar none. Even religious idols will be secondary to the host's fame. Second path. Mine and mine alone. Mine and mine alone. The host rejects the sentiment sharing is caring. He doesn't want the women he co-stars with to work with other male actors. The system will create a Valkyrie subsystem, allowing the host to assign selected women he starred with. His Valkyries will gain supernatural abilities, and the host's quests will include ensuring their success as well as his own. Valkyries cannot engage in sexual relationships with men other than the host. The host can remove Valkyries from his harem, stripping them of their powers. Valkyries must be adult, non-awakened women. Damn! Was all Caden could utter for a good few minutes. So if I understand it right, the first path is one of pure hedonism, while the second will grant me a harem of hot girls who I will elevate from being ordinary, powerless commoners to something akin to awakeners. Also, I can't help but wonder what the Valkyries cannot engage in sexual relationships with men other than the host means exactly. Will the guy's shaft fall off if he tries to put it in, or what? Sounds a bit scary, to be honest. Although both sides had positives, he had to go with the second. Caden wasn't a hopeless hedonist, and having a harem of supernatural babes was right up his alley. He selected it with his mind. Second path, mine and mine alone selected. The porn star system has been altered accordingly. Status. Name. Caden Ashbourne. Rank. 1 wannabe. Class. Porn star. Level. 1. XP. 0/1000. Stats. Vitality. 11. Strength. 12. Agility. 11. Endurance. 12. Mana. 10. Magic. 10. Views. 0. Fangirls. 1. Income. 0. Valkyries. A. Skills. 1. Immune cock. D tier. 2. Remove her inhibitions. E tier. He suddenly shot out of his seat with a shock jolt. He was straight up hyperventilating. I'm an awakened. Since when? Also, what the hell is that class? It's gotta be useless like the Gardner Girls class who has the bubbly butt. Damn! The tier of a class wasn't displayed by the systemic interface. However, the Awakened Association had artifacts that could measure the potential of a class, also known as its tier. Shut up, nerd. I'm about to win my promos to gold. David yelled from the dorm room next door. Yes, his neighbor was still with Becky and liked to arrogantly remind Caden that he was doing better both academically as well as in their private lives. Caden couldn't give a flying fuck about what David wanted right now. He never did, though he did manage to calm down a bit. I will have to register myself at the Awakened Association. Shit, my family will clown on me more than if I were to remain a commoner. What is this class? Pornstar. I've never heard of it before. Classes were not unique in the sense that multiple people could share the same class, though A tiers and above were unique in the sense that only a single person possessed them. As for the Awakened Association, it was the organization that dealt with anything related to the supernatural side of the world brought upon humanity by the arrival of the mana apocalypse in the United States of America. The association was a subsidiary of the government. They administered awakeners, helped maintain dungeon gates, acted in case of dungeon breaks, served as the middlemen between hostile guilds to retain peace, etc. Each awakened was legally required to register in the association within a week of their awakening, or they would become criminals, which now meant that Caden was also forced to register himself. The reason why Caden was so devastated by his newly awakened class despite dreaming of having one was that it was a civilian class. Classes could be leveled up through two methods: killing humans and killing monsters. One didn't gain levels from doing well in their civilian class, such as the F-tier Gardner girl with the bubbly, but was likely still level 1 and would remain so until she grabbed a spear and threw herself into a dungeon crawling with mighty monsters or killed other awakened humans. Naturally, in such a scenario, she would be nothing more than a useless weakling, a glorified commoner. Strong civilian classes like the aforementioned B-tier blacksmith would be important enough for prominent guilds to not only fight over having such a person in their ranks but also to go out of their way to create escort squads whose sole purpose was to spoon-feed XP to the smith while ensuring their safety. Naturally, no one in their right mind would do this for a porn star. Caden braced himself mentally to check the class's details. He expected the absolute worst. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Class, Pornstar. Ability, First-person camera. First-person camera. The class's holder can record what they see as if their eyes were extremely high-quality cameras. The filmed content can only be uploaded to the system's media platform. Caden felt like fainting all of a sudden. Just a single ability, and even that was shit. The last line meant that he couldn't even upload the footage to the internet. It could only be utilized by the media platform Awakened used to stream and upload edited videos of their clears, achievements, announcements, etc. Other Awakened could also shoot porn should they wish to, using the mana-fueled cameras they had access to, but not many chose to do so. Why? Firstly, Awakened were something like higher existences. Many felt like showing off their naked forms was below them. The people who ended up choosing to film porn tended to be ridiculed by the other Awakened. Second, the cameras were not made for recording intimate acts but for brutal battles with explosions and the like. Thus, it was significantly more durable than cameras made by human hands, but what a professional filming crew could do during a traditional porn shoot would end up being a superior viewing experience. Before Caden could despair any further, an exclamation mark appeared in his mind. Wait, this is certified trash, yes, but combined with my Pornstar system, my Pornstar class might end up being OP. Due to my being an Awakened, I could create my own studio starring exclusively my Valkyries and myself, where we would film ourselves to a much wider audience. After all, everyone has access to the systematic media platform, and there isn't even a language barrier. That way, I could earn much more fangirls, views, and income. Well, if we do manage to get loyal viewers, that is. With this revelation, or perhaps an extreme coping mechanism, Caden managed not to fall into a crippling depression. He glanced at his status, and something else stuck out to him. Views, 0. Fangirls, 1. Income, 0. What? I have a fangirl? How? I haven't even starred in a video yet, and I have like 0 online presence. Did a girl begin to get moist in her coochie when I posted my Gold 3 promotion screenshot to twit**r? Do I have a stalker I'm not aware of? Or what? Maybe this shit is just buggy. In the end, he could only move on with his life. As soon as he was finished checking his notifications, he was about to close the interface. But then, ding! New main quest. Debut. Debut. Make your debut into the world of adult filming. Rewards will depend on the success of the host's debut. Ding! New rank-up mission available. Reach, 1. Views 1 million. 2. Fangirls 100. 3. Income 100. Complete. 1. Main quest. Debut. 2. The day has come. Today, Caden will visit the location the casting agent indicated. He dressed in his recently acquired suit and visited the barber once again. Right now, he was sitting in a taxi. The place was about 20 minutes away by car. Once there, he quickly found the exact location thanks to *GLE maps, and when he stepped inside, a small reception area welcomed Caden. He walked up to the older woman sitting behind the reception desk. Hi, I'm here for the casting. She raised her vision from her computer screen to examine him. Welcome. Identification papers, please. He handed his ID over, and she checked something in their database. Found you. Take this list, read it over, and give it back to me once completed. Caden accepted the paper and the pen she gave him and then began studying it. It was a comprehensive paper that asked a lot of questions. His basic information, sexual preferences, safety declarations, consent to be filmed, payment information, and more. He began filling the forms out. For the stage name, he chose Maverick. Sounded cool. As for the STD test, he'd already done it beforehand. Though with his immune cock passive skill, it wasn't relevant. As for scene preferences, he strictly chose straight scenes with either a single girl or multiple, though he made sure to indicate that he would only do it if he was the sole male present. For everything else, he declined. The receptionist gave it a read-over, then nodded, folding the paper and stashing it away. Go ahead, she said while gesturing towards a double door. Once he did as instructed, he froze in place from shock. Caden was unable to accept that what he was seeing was indeed reality. Caden? A feminine voice yelped with sheer shock evident in her tone. Arya. Caden greeted the girl in a disbelieving whisper once his dazed state of mind subsided enough for his brain to reboot itself. The girl couldn't meet his eyes and only replied a meek, "Please kill me. You know this dude?" A guy spoke up haughtily. Multiple people were seated in sofas close to each other. The one who spoke up seemed like a certified background character. Brown hair, brown eyes, nothing memorable. Caden knew he would forget about his existence as soon as the guy wasn't in front of him. Arya didn't bother responding, or rather couldn't, due to her extreme amount of shame. Finally, someone good-looking. I was starting to get depressed by these mob characters. A woman's voice could be heard this time, the only one besides Arya in the group. "Watch your tongue, whore!" All three guys shouted at her at the same time, but she didn't care at all and instead grinned at them mockingly. "The truth hurts, doesn't it? You better hope I'm not partnered up with you, or you will scream under me like a bitch," the first loser decreed. "Ooh, I'm shaking in my boots. Please, spare me. Anyway, Arya, would you mind introducing me to this gentleman?" "No. Please leave me alone." The silver-haired girl retreated into her mental shell, refusing to accept reality. "Well, I will just have to do it myself then," the energetic woman decreed, stood from her seat and walked up to him. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Caden took this moment to examine this strange girl. Her pink hair would have already made her stand out from any crowd, but that was only the icing on the cake in her case. It was her grin that truly caught his attention. Playful and full of attitude, like she was constantly on the verge of saying something so provocative she would be cancelled on Twit** are within a moment's notice. A black choker adorned her neck, and she wore a slightly oversized off-the-shoulder sweater that hinted at her hourglass figure, paired with black, skin-tight pants that highlighted her thick thighs. Her whole appearance screamed confidence and sexiness. She also sported the largest, most bountiful breasts and shapely but Caden had ever seen. "You're even cuter up close. I will ask the strict casting lady so that we are paired together." Caden couldn't help but chuckle under his breath, due to the pink-haired woman's announcement. This girl was different, but not in a bad way. Her energy was refreshing. "Nice to meet you. I'm Caden," he greeted the eccentric ball of energy. "Oh, where are my manners? Nix, nice to meet you." Instead of shaking his hand, she hugged him tightly. Now that her chest was this close, Caden noticed something after he got over how comforting her large breasts being mashed up against him were. Her heart was beating incredibly fast. "I understand now. She's pretending. This enthusiastic and brash act is her way of dealing with stress. There's no way a young girl would be this chill about losing her virginity on camera for a stack of cash. This front of hers is just a defense mechanism." He thought that Nyx might be like him, someone who didn't mind being filmed or even wanted it, but no. Her heartbeat belied her true feelings. She was scared like a lost kitten. Once she disengaged, the pink-haired beauty grabbed his hand and began dragging him towards the group. All guys were dressed as common lowlives. One was even in a Nick * trainer outfit. No wonder this girl latched onto the soul-promising young man who appeared in front of her. "Make way, losers," she growled at the trio of men who were eyeing Caden with eyes promising nothing but a brutal beating. They didn't wish to give him room, and the only sofa was that of Nyx's from which she stood to greet him. All right, we've got no other choice then," Nyx murmured, then gestured for Caden to sit in her seat, and then she placed herself in his lap. "You're a bold one," Caden commented, playing along with her act. "Hee. So what's the procedure? Have you guys passed the test?" He asked no one in particular, but it was Nyx who replied instantly. "Me and Arya already passed. Another girl is being checked right now. For us, it was only the strict lady examining if our hymen were intact or not. Supposedly, we get double the money if it is. These losers are waiting for their turn." "I see," Caden nodded. Just then, the door opened, and a glasses-wearing lady came out, followed by a short girl. Caden, you know each other? The older, strict-looking woman asked curiously. Yeah. He chuckled wryly. What are the chances? 2 out of 3. Nice seeing you, Luna. I'm sorry. I had no other choice. She whispered dejectedly with an extremely pained expression, as if she had just completely betrayed him. Though as to what she was apologizing for exactly, he didn't know. It was not like she was his girlfriend or anything. In the end, they didn't even manage to go on an initial date. Don't worry about it. I'm sure you have had your reasons, Caden replied amicably, not wanting the depressed girl to begin bawling her eyes out right here and now, as by the look of things, that was exactly what she was about to do. When he met this woman in the adult shop, she had such a bright, fun personality, but here she looked just straight up suicidal. So am I the only one who didn't know you beforehand? Nix shouted with disbelief before eyeing him suspiciously. Are you a playboy? No, actually, I'm a virgin too, he revealed nonchalantly, causing all 3 men to snort at him and begin throwing insults his way. Ha! He says he's a virgin. The nice dress won't help you get a role here. Retard. Do you even know where to aim with your little pecker? He will miss the hole entirely. Ha ha ha. Dude, just go home. You're embarrassing yourself. Compared to the losers, the 3 women all glanced at him with newfound interest. Not only was he dressed very well, but he also conducted himself like a normal person, and he was inexperienced just like them to boot. Whoever would be paired up with him was certainly going to become the winner. They all thought. Yes, each girl was supposed to be paired with a different guy for variety's sake. The glasses-wearing woman had enough of the crude insults. She spoke up. Next boy's turn. Caden Ashbourne. She then glanced at her paper with obvious befuddlement in her gaze while double-checking something. I'm not from that family, lady, Caden commented, knowing exactly what she was surprised about. She nodded in response and sighed with relief. Ah, the nerd goes first? But we were here before him. They objected but were shot down with extreme coldness in the boss woman's tone. Don't care. Didn't ask, also. Shut the fuck up. Damn. This lady do be cold though. It's suddenly freezing in here. The second jeered while the third hugged himself with his arms and began shaking violently while giving off brrrr sound effects as if he was about to freeze to his death. Nix reluctantly got out of his lap and strengthened her grip around his palm for a moment. You have to pass. I desperately need the money, but I would honestly rather end my life than give my first time to any of these thugs. He nodded to reassure her while declaring, I'll do my best. You have my word. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Caden followed the cold lady as 6 pairs of eyes were etched onto his retreating form. They entered a simple-looking room that only had a bed in it, and a woman sitting on it with a white robe around her body. Before he could introduce himself, the organizer woman spoke up. Since we have no clue about your capabilities, we will have to test your performance. This lady is Angel, one of the parent company's employees. She will help with your assessment. Hi! She smiled at him with very little emotion in her eyes. She was nonchalant, bored even. He returned the gesture, then glanced towards the boss woman to ask, Can you tell me about the proceedings? Yes, you've already sent me a few pictures of your body. We will start with verifying the image's truthfulness. If everything is in order, you will receive a handjob from Angel. If you don't ejaculate within 5 minutes, you pass and will be signed for a single filming, earning you $300. Just 5. The blonde woman burst out into a fit of haughty giggles before addressing him. Oh, sweetie, I've been in this business for nearly a decade now. I will give you a congratulatory peck on your cheeks if you manage to last for 3 minutes, let alone 5. Angel's condescending tone gave him the feeling that this woman thought that she could squeeze him dry whenever and wherever she wanted. What if I don't ejaculate even after 5 minutes? Caden asked cockily while dropping his pants to the ground, eliciting a muted yelp from the haughty blonde who wasn't privy to the image of his member beforehand. He then glanced at the cold woman who stood motionlessly by the side. Let's make a bet, shall we? If I win, I want. So, how do you know him? Nix asked Luna curiously once a few minutes passed in muted silence. I sold him a few sex toys. Huh? The pink-haired beauty gasped, and she wasn't alone. Even Arya came out of her crippling depression momentarily due to sheer shock. Yeah, and I even promised him a date, yet I more or less ghosted him for weeks, and now he finds me here, selling my virginity for cash. He must think I'm a turbo slut who pretended to be a chaste girl in front of him. I want to disappear from the face of the earth. What's more is that I don't even have a hymen because I tore it myself, so I only get half pay. It feels like recently the universe itself has been constantly throwing me under the bus. Well, he might not be wrong to think you a whore, no? What kind of girl penetrates herself? The brown-haired mob character leered. How do we even know that you're a virgin? Maybe the whole district had already scored a home run in your loose hole. None of the girls even acknowledged their existence, so he naturally got no reply. So he wanted to date you? Arya spoke up out of her own volition for the first time since coming here. Yeah, I guess so. We had a bet where if he won, I promised to go on a date with him. I see. Arya mused out loud, though a strange emotion could be sensed from her unhappy tone. Which one of us will get him? Luna asked suddenly. Me, obviously, Nix replied instantly. I also want Caden. Arya wasn't slow in her response either. Same. Luna sighed. That's troublesome. What do you think the guy's test is about? Maybe he won't even pass? Arya questioned this time. Luna shook her head before confidently declaring, Believe me, he will. Well, as long as it's about size and performance and not something dumb like morality and ethics. Why are you so sure? Before Nix's question could be answered, a feminine shriek reverberated through the waiting room. HHHH heart suit. What the fuck was that? The mob characters were flabbergasted. Maybe an audio recording. Yeah, a prank. It must be. Another shriek came from the door that saw the young examinee enter, serving as a proverbial slap in the faces of all three deluded losers. Caden. I love this fat cock of yours. Rip me apart. Force me to retire and become a kindergarten teacher working for the gov's pity pay, whose favorite hobbies consist of knitting shitty scarves and brewing cheap tea. Hai. Kakik. Nix suddenly burst out with mocking laughter before addressing them. That, you bunch of horrible human existences, is the sound of our breeding stud passing the test with flying colors. The trio grimaced together in sync. No way. But he's a virgin. For the next 15 minutes, the sound of a female's body being mercilessly pounded into a mightily creaking wooden bed frame, accompanied by her ecstatic moans and desperate begging, was the only thing the six youngsters could hear. At first, Nix was smug, but by the end, she was paler than the three losers. I'll straight up die. Told you that he would pass, Luna commented victoriously, though she was also very shocked. He'll surely be gentler with me, Arya stated with a great amount of hope evident in her tone. The creaking and feminine begging came to an abrupt halt, and after a minute of silence, the door opened, revealing the strict examiner and the fashionable young man who still sported his suit, though his hair was a bit more unruly than before and sweat trickled down on his forehead. He had a jovial grin adorn his face, and even the cold woman was a bit flushed around her cheeks, who then spoke up. You three pathetic scumbags. It's high time for you to scurry back to whichever rat hole you emerged from. I made a deal with Caden. He will be the one to co-star with all three girls. Her declaration caused a myriad of reactions. The boys jumped from their seats and began protesting while the girls squirmed in place. They got their preferred partner, but their charming prince might be packing a murder weapon instead of beautiful roses for his three innocent little princesses. Once security was called to escort the thugs out, the older woman spoke up again, this time sporting an uncharacteristic smile on her lips. Silence, finally. My name is Zadie. In case I forgot to introduce myself. Apologies if I was cold before, but I despise guys like these, and casting isn't something I enjoy doing anyway. I'm one of the executives of XXX Vids, the parent company of the studio, but due to bad financial performance, I was forced to step in instead of leaving things to the studio's manager. Nice to meet you, Zadie, Caden commented merrily. It wasn't hard for the ladies to discern that he was on cloud nine from whatever he just went through in that room. Do any of you have questions? Nyx was the first to speak up. Yes. You said we would all do it with Caden? What's the order and date? Zadie nodded. Indeed. I was thinking of having you guys do a foursome. This guy can certainly take on 3 first-timers like you at the same time without issue, and we've never had even a threesome filmed in this studio, let alone a foursome. It would be very well received by the audience. The girls gasped together as if they were in a chorus, but then the sole male of the party spoke up, uttering something no one present expected. No. I refuse. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Huh? But we just made a deal. I never said I would do all 3 together. What's the issue with it? Wouldn't that be every single man's wet dream? Yes, but there's a problem. He parted his lips, and a torrent of words flew out. I believe that a girl's first time should be special and memorable. Something they can think back to fondly decades from now while resting their tired bodies in a rocking chair and reminiscing about the good old days. These 3 will already have cameras recording their first time, but you have to show respect by not grouping them together as if they were some stupid cattle about to be slaughtered for efficiency's sake. That's the bare minimum respect we should shower such wonderful existences with. Caden. All 3 ladies in question wore shocked expressions since they agreed with Zadie that it should be something he would absolutely love. He was throwing away the dream of every man for their dignity's sake. They couldn't help but be a bit moved in their hearts. I suppose. Zadie nodded reluctantly. Anyway, you will sign the contract and then go home for today. Spend some time together with Caden to break the ice. She then looked at the girls and saw the warm, appreciative glances they were stealing at the man, and chuckled wryly. If there's any ice left to break, that is, and come back tomorrow. We can decide on the order then. We will aim to finish the shootings in a single day, though it might take more than 8 hours, so be ready. At worst, I expect it to take about 14 hours with prep work and everything included. You girls will be able to rest throughout a good portion of the day. But Caden, well, this is what you wanted, right? Indeed. I will manage, don't worry. The signing was concluded in a matter of minutes, and then the squad stepped out the doors of the agency. Caden spoke up. So I suppose it would be smart to listen to Zadie and spend some time together, getting to know each other better. Ding! New side quest, Pillar of Support. The girls are deathly nervous about what tomorrow has in store for them. Alleviate their worries tonight by showing them a good time. Rewards. 1. 2 upgrade points. I agree. All 3 voiced their agreement in sync. Good. Where should we do it, though? It would be smartest in one of our homes. I don't want strangers to overhear whatever we talk about. Nyx reasoned before adding, Sadly, I live an hour away. 25 minutes for me, Arya commented, followed by Luna. 30, but my brother is home. I don't want to see him right now. 20 for me, though I live in a small college dorm, Caden stated. He wasn't at all ready to welcome 3 bombshells in his man cave. What's the worst that can happen? Did you forget to hide the bodies? I recommend a barrel filled with potent acid, Nyx teased mischievously. You didn't put them away. Luna gasped as she swiftly realized why he was so reluctant to invite them over. Caden could only smile wryly. She was spot on. His $200 fleshlight was on top of his desk, where he practiced thrusting moves until the time came to get a taxi and come here. Guilty as charged. Hee hee. Luna giggled jovially, showing off her beautiful smile for the first time in weeks. Wait, I was right? Nyx gulped, greatly misunderstanding their conversation. Not exactly. You'll understand once there, I suppose. Caden chuckled, then called an **R. He ended up sitting at the front while the girls were stuffed together into the back. The ride was seamless, although not much conversation took place. The atmosphere was a bit awkward for the ladies, considering he was the man who would take their first time in a few hours. one after the other at that. The way he made that unknown woman scream obscenities didn't bolster their self-confidence much, either. Once the ride arrived at its destination and Caden paid for the service, they all began to make their way towards the young man's room. As he was about to enter his key into the door's keyhole, he heard another door creak open. David stepped through with Becky latched onto his left arm like a lovesick maiden. When he glanced at the four people, his eyes almost popped out of his sockets. "What the?" he exclaimed in shock. Caden waved his hand at him in greeting as his lips curled into an amused grin. "Yo, did you end up winning your promotion game to gold?" he asked, referencing what David was shouting at him a while ago over their shared wall. The man in question didn't bother answering. Instead, he began walking towards them. Becky's expression turned to one of worry. "Caden, what's this? Since when did you have enough money to hire escorts?" David growled. "Excuse me?" Luna questioned in a furious tone. "You heard me. There's no way the three of you are here of your own volition. I would dare stake my future inheritance on this claim of mine." Nix, who was very socially capable, quickly got the gist of the situation. It was a men's rivalry. Although this rude guy's claim wasn't completely wrong, she liked Caden more than enough to grant him a small favor. She latched onto her prince's arm, mimicking Becky's needy antics, then tiptoed in order to kiss him on the cheeks endearingly, after which she turned towards David and declared, "I'm no escort. Caden is the man who will be taking my virginity." Ha! NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. "He's going to claim mine as well." Luna joined in on the fun once she understood what the pink-haired girl was doing. She latched onto his other arm, though she struggled to kiss him since he was much taller. Thankfully, Luna was a crafty girl, so she quickly found a solution, which was forcefully pulling him by his arm so that her lips could connect with his cheek. Although she felt a bit embarrassed, she didn't care much about what a random college student thought of her. The two girls then glanced towards Arya, the only one who remained silent. Their expectant gazes spoke volumes, and she bit her lips, understanding what their silent command was. Her heartbeat quickened as she stood in front of Caden, latched her arms around the back of his neck, rose to her toes, and planted a kiss on his lips. Caden is my boyfriend," she yelled after a great deal of inner struggles. The silver-haired girl managed to surprise all those who were present to see her display, though no one was more shocked than Arya herself. Her cheeks reddened akin to that of a ripe tomato once she realized what she'd just done. Before she could correct her myriad of mistakes committed in the span of 5 seconds, Nix began snickering. "So bold. You've earned my respect, girl. I misjudged you," Luna murmured with a lot less enthusiasm. "And no, I didn't mean to." Nix interrupted the bumbling girl, who was about to melt into nothingness due to the sheer embarrassment she was feeling, by hissing at David. "Anyways, there you have it. Scurry along. I've seen enough mob characters for today. We wish to spend the rest of today with our Caden and no one else." David gritted his teeth together until they nearly broke, and his eyes were seething with a myriad of emotions. Disbelief, jealousy, sorrow, and many more. "Come, hubby, you've also taken a girl's virginity, remember? Let's go see the robot movie you wanted," Becky begged while dragging him away. The man in question allowed himself to be hauled off by his girlfriend while grumbling, "It's not a movie about robots but mechs. They're nothing alike. So he's your man now, huh?" Luna teased Arya, who was on the brink of fainting from embarrassment. Why did I do that? I'm so ashamed of myself. I just wanted to hug Caden, but going the extra mile felt correct in my mind somehow. Mistakes were made. Happens to the best of us," Caden stated diplomatically. "But that was my first kiss." "Same." "Oh, sorry for stealing your first kiss." Arya apologized with absolute sincerity in her tone. "You're a weird woman," Luna mumbled under her breath. Click. Caden put his key into the hole finally, turning it sideways and opening the door. Nix and Luna rushed in excitedly, eager to see how his room would look while Arya was still in a severely dazed state of mind. "Where is it?" Nyx shouted energetically while glancing around his room. "There," Luna commented and rushed to his desk, upon which the toy lay in front of his computer screen. "Damn, that's one fine piece of ass." The pink-haired, curvaceous beauty whistled as she spotted the target of her curiosity. "I know, right? I selected it for him myself," Luna decreed proudly. "Hey, how about some respect for my privacy?" Caden whined to no avail. "You're going to be taking our first time in a few hours. We have the right to ascertain that our man is the correct one," Nyx reasoned while spanking the fleshlight energetically as if to double down on her statement, making its butt bounce like the waves of the sea amidst a mighty storm. "Nice." Caden didn't wish to entertain the two eccentric girls any longer, so he grabbed the toy and threw it into his bathroom. It was already close to late evening, so he thought some food might make the ladies happy. "Want to order some takeout? It's on me. I can pay my part." Luna wasn't keen to accept his kindness. "I insist. As the host, it's my duty to feed my guests." Caden knew that all three of them were strapped for cash, so he thought that the least he could do was offer the girls who would be giving him their virginity a free meal. He was comfortable enough financially to do so. Bruno's job was something he could always do if he was desperate, and he didn't even quit yet. His only expenses were Liam's time, the gym membership, and food. Everything else was paid for by his student loan. "All right," the purple-haired girl accepted his offer reluctantly. "I want to eat pizza," Nyx cheered jovially. "Of course you would. Now I understand why you are so fat," Luna commented rather rudely while glaring at the pink-haired beauty's sizable bosom as if it were her enemy. I think my senses picked up on a severe case of feminine insecurity. Want to talk me through it, bestie?" While Nyx was indeed the most curvaceous out of the trio, she was by no means out of shape. All fat in her body was perfectly distributed to just the right places, namely her breasts, thighs, and butt. Arya was the perfect middle ground. She had by far the most supermodel-style physique. She was slender with long legs, generous breasts, and a very inviting rear. As a serious gym-goer, she was also the girl with the most muscle definition, and her serious efforts have resulted in a very perky butt and firm, tantalizing thighs. Luna was the smallest of the three, not only in height but also in feminine proportions. However, she wasn't flat at all. A shapely butt and alluring breasts adorned her body. To begin with, Caden had nothing against girls with breasts that weren't ginormous, and Luna was extremely gorgeous to boot, so in his eyes, the three were equally hot. If he was being honest, he wanted to ravage all of them to his heart's content. As for their height, Caden stood at 189 centimeters, 6 feet 2 inches, and a head shorter than him were both Arya and Nyx, who were nearly identical in height at around 170 centimeters, 5 feet 6 inches. And the two girls towered over Luna, who stood at 155 centimeters, 5 feet 1 inch. "No. Leave me alone, you pink pig." NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Before a serious catfight could ensue, Caden tactfully interjected, shutting off the girl blessed with extremely generous feminine genes who was about to make a snarky remark, resulting in her pouting at him cutely. "What food would you like, Luna? Arya?" "A Caesar salad for me, please," Arya replied, slowly emerging from her self-inflicted dazed state of mind. "Pancakes," Luna muttered, but before Nyx could even begin to mock her choice since it was unhealthier than pizza, the delicate girl hissed at her as if she were a venomous snake. "I don't want to hear it. I need to have sugar in my system to deal with all of this," causing the energetic bombshell to snicker victoriously. "All right." Although each girl asked for something distinctly different, Caden knew a local restaurant that offered a vast array of meals, so he gave them a call. As for himself, he chose tandoori chicken. He didn't have a cheat day since he got the pornstar system, and he didn't plan to break the streak anytime soon. Suddenly, his phone rang out. He checked it and saw that Zadie messaged him. "Zadie, Here's a link to a social game we like to introduce to rookie actors. Play it with the girls. A friendly reminder, if I may, Caden. You've agreed in your contract not to engage sexually with any of them before the shooting, so you should keep it in your pants. Each time you break the clause, you would be fined $2,500, and so would they. Therefore, it'd be cheaper to just call an escort if you must. Caden. Thanks for the vote of confidence, lady. Zadie, you're welcome. Thumbs up emoji. Caden. What about Luna though? Zadie. I'm contractually obligated to say that you're not allowed to touch her, as stated before. Caden. Nice. Since Luna had already torn her hymen with her toys, his crime would go unnoticed unless she confessed or they did a DNA check. However, he knew that their relationship wouldn't get there within the few hours available to them. He asked more so out of curiosity than anything serious. He downloaded the app the woman linked and asked the girls to gather around. Since there wasn't much of an option, they sat on the ground in a circle. The order was going clockwise: Caden, Arya, Luna, Nyx. This way, Luna sat in front of him while Arya was on his left and Nyx on his right. Zadie sent me a social game. She said we should play it. The app asked for the names of the participants, and once he input them, it began. A sexy voice sounded from the speakers. Welcome to Stripping Icebreaker. The rules are simple. If you can't or aren't willing to follow through with a task you're given, you will have to lose a clothing apparel. Socks, scarves, gloves, etc. don't count, and for fairness' sake, each of you will begin with 4 artificial clothing items. If you have less than that number on you in reality, you won't have to begin losing your clothes until the number of remaining artificial clothes you have matches up with reality. If you have more, then begin undressing until you have 4 on you at most. To make it pristine clear, if you have a boxer, trousers, and a t-shirt on you, you won't have to begin taking anything off until you fall to having only 2 artificial clothes. If a person receives a task that involves another's participation, and that person isn't willing to complete it, they will still have to lose apparel, while the one who drew the task but was willing to do their part won't have to. The voice paused for a moment before continuing. As for the tasks, they will be a mix of truth or dare, never have I ever, and a few other ones. The draws will be random. Ready? Press the begin button to start. This lady has such a soothing voice. She's somewhat familiar too, Nyx murmured. She's the one who tested me, Caden replied, easily recognizing Angel's serene tone. Luna's big, expressive eyes suddenly lit up with excited curiosity. Oh, I've been meaning to ask what that was about. Caden smirked smugly before revealing the happenings that went on behind closed doors. The test was just me enduring 5 minutes of handjob from her. However, as you should know, we were meant to have only one partner out of those present, so 2 of you would have had to do it with one of those societal rejects. He paused his story for a moment as he embarrassedly scratched his nose. Truth be told, I wanted to have all 3 of you to myself, so I made a deal with Zadie. We agreed that if I could pass the test, then I would get to do the deed with Angel, and if I made her scream my name in ecstasy, Zadie would let me star with all of you. If I were to lose, well, I would have more or less become her work slave. Wow! That was all Arya could mutter in response for a second before finding more words. That's strangely romantic. So you're telling us that you made a pro scream like that? And it didn't even take you long. Nyx murmured with an expression that was the perfect mixture of admiration and trepidation. That doesn't explain why you remained in the room for 15 minutes more. Once she screamed your name though, Luna commented with a mischievous smirk dancing on her lips. She knew exactly what was up and chose to poke fun at him. Caden could only chuckle in response. Yeah. Once I won, neither of us wanted to finish then and there, so we continued until she was exhausted. Zadie wasn't happy but accommodated Angel's request since she was a good employee of hers. Supposedly. I totally get you, Caden. Just look at this babe. Nyx voiced her approving thoughts while fiddling around her phone, then flipped it around in her hand so the other 2 could also see Angel's picture. Yeah, she was a sexy blonde chick. Also, I know that you did it mostly for yourself, but still, thank you for making that risky bet, the pink-haired woman stated, eyeing him endearingly. Yeah, thanks. Luna and Arya were both quick to agree. Don't mention it. Ready? Yes. The phone screen vibrated, and the first task landed on Luna. It was a truth question. Have you ever used dating apps for hookups? NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. I did download one out of curiosity, but I didn't spend more than 5 minutes on there. It was full of disgusting simps. Toys are superior to men anyhow. The purple-haired beauty scoffed dismissively. The next one landed on Caden, and it was a dare this time around. Sit in the lap of the first person of the opposing gender to your right for 2 turns. What? Shouldn't it be the other way around? This is some beta shit. Caden grumbled, not keen to sit in the lap of a woman. Come to me, my adorable little princess. Nyx screamed joyously as she opened her arms wide, ready to welcome him in her embrace. The girl was very happy with the task they received. Caden winced involuntarily at her overeager antics and heavily debated about losing a point. However, he wasn't going to be a quitter this easily. He unceremoniously plopped down into the pink-haired beauty's soft lap, who began rocking him from side to side as if he were a baby while hugging him with both of her arms to keep him in place. Caden got the distinct impression that she was holding on to him with her arms as if she were afraid of him running away. The next turn was Nyx's. What part of the upcoming filming are you the most worried about? She didn't hesitate even for a second as she shouted her answer. I'm worried that my cute Princess Girthy cock will destroy me. Both Luna and Arya giggled at her shameless behavior, and even Caden found the situation rather funny despite his predicament. Last was the supermodel's turn, who got a dare. Compliment the person on your left on their appearance. That person was Luna. The silver-haired bombshell thought inwardly for a moment while stealing glances at the girl in question. I love your hair color. And your skin is also so smooth and fair. What beauty products are you using? I bet it's XY. Also, I think your face is very pretty. Luna was a bit taken aback by the multiple compliments she received, but just like Caden, she had a high tolerance for shame. It's ZX. Also, thanks. You're very beautiful yourself. Ah, ZX. I should have known. Sadly, it's outside my budget. Arya nodded to herself. With that, the warm-up round is over. I hope none of you have lost a point yet, or you should consider becoming priests and priestesses instead. Angel's cheery tones sounded from the phone's speakers. Caden had served his dare's duration, so he eagerly jumped back to his original position, leaving the plump beauty to pout with sorrowful eyes. It's a question all of you have to answer. What porn category makes you the horniest? Femdom, Luna decreed instantly, causing all to look at her with disbelief. Her small frame didn't at all signal that she would be into something like that, but perhaps the contrast only made it better. Porn was a form of fantasy after all. I think I'll have to go with vanilla, Nyx murmured hesitantly. Seeing the questioning gazes sent her way, she quickly spoke up defensively. I'm not a big pervert like you guys. Okay? I might act brazen, but I'm kinda innocent in this department. I have barely ever watched any porn to begin with. I just don't find viewing two strangers having sex to be enjoyable. I even found the ad for the job on a random Instagram *M post. What a normie he. Luna snickered at her. For some reason, the petite girl seemed to have beef with Nyx, though for what reason Caden couldn't grasp completely. After all, the curvaceous beauty had been nothing but kind ever since he met her. Boys love, Arya whispered under her breath with much shame evident in her features, forcing the ensuing catfight to pause instantly. She quickly clarified, I don't like real-life gay stuff, but I have a lot of BL novels at home, and much more on my phone. If Caden were to be honest, all 3 girls surprised him. He expected Nyx to be the freakiest with some degenerate fetish, Arya to be the hardcore vanilla girl, and Luna, he didn't even know where to put the girl. She seemed like a closeted hentai enthusiast, if anything, but it turned out that Arya was the weeb, Luna had dominatrix streaks in her, and Nyx was the bubbly girl with an innocent heart under the thorny exterior. 3 expectant heads turned his way once the girls got over each other's unexpected responses. Caden didn't hesitate to reveal his thoughts. I honestly don't have a definitive favorite. I like most categories as long as the girl is hot and the dude's hairy ass isn't in the camera, and he isn't moaning like a filthy pig. Teen, MILF, deep throat, lesbian, vanilla, anal, BDSM. Honestly, I'm down for anything as long as it's not gay porn and not some extreme fetish like scat, truth be told. However, to not lose a point, I will go with teen. Damn. This dude just threw his entire fetish library at us. Luna grumbled adorably. You're happy he went with teen and not MILF, right? Nyx asked rather smugly. Cow uttered bitch. The purple-haired girl's mouth filter was still under construction. She was a bit more reserved in recent weeks due to some stress, whose origin Caden wasn't privy to, but in the past couple dozen minutes, she returned to being the same chirpy girl who raved to him about her knowledge of sex toys. I think I'll take that as a compliment. It seemed Nyx was good at brushing off crude insults. Let's move on, shall we? Caden interjected once again and received a happy nod from Arya, and the next dare landed on Luna. Give a 30-second long lap dance to the nearest member of the opposing gender to you. Fuck! Luna cursed in a very unladylike manner. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Shall I get seated on a chair? Or will you lose a point? You better wipe that overwhelmingly joyous grin off your lips, or you'll regret it. The petite girl growled threateningly while pointing an accusatory finger at him. Though, with her adorable frame, delicate arms, and pretty face, he didn't feel to be in grave danger at all. Get your ass on a chair, you bastard. Let it be known that I'm no pussy. Caden couldn't help but laugh at her antics. It seemed like her profanity filter got even worse when she found herself in a tricky situation. As for Arya and Nyx, both looked at the girl in surprise. Unlike Caden, they didn't know her true nature and only met her amid her depressive episode. So this was all new to them. Caden stood and pulled his desk's chair out and seated himself on it, then expectantly stared at the squirming girl standing in front of him. Should I start a timer? Nyx questioned but was shot down cruelly with a shut your trap, pink bimbo. Here goes nothing, Luna muttered under her breath, after which she hesitantly placed her delicate hands on Caden's shoulders while very visibly unsure where to begin. She gingerly started by moving her hips, trying to mimic what she imagined a lap dance should look like. Luna's fingers then began gripping his shoulders tighter as she found a bit more rhythm. The girl managed to divert more and more of her focus to the task at hand instead of the awkwardness of it. Caden could feel the heat between them rising as Luna's soft breath brushed against his face, and while her complete inexperience showed, that only seemed to make it hotter in his mind. He couldn't help but feel admiration toward the girl, as she did her best to bravely do what needed to be done to avoid being a loser. Luna moved closer and closer to him until their crotch areas finally met. Despite the multiple layers of clothing between them, the delicate girl could feel his raging boner pressing right up against her most precious place. What? Am I really this good? Luna asked amusedly, and her mood quickly turned from nervous to smug as she began to enjoy the task once she received this extremely positive feedback straight from his body, not his mouth. After all, he could lie to bolster her confidence. Yeah, you're hot as hell, Caden declared huskily without an ounce of reservation. The girl gasped with a bashful smile dancing on her pretty lips. Thanks. She soon began grinding against his shaft earnestly now that she was getting into the mood for real. Luna bobbed her perky butt up and down eagerly while she grabbed the back of his head with both hands to have firmer support. Ah! A muted moan escaped her lips, soon followed by others that became louder and louder. Why is this so good? My toys should be much better than a penis that isn't even inside me. What's more, there's like 4 layers of clothes between us. Ring, ring, ring. A phone timer buzzed. 3 heads snapped in Arya's direction. Her cheeks reddened as she failed to meet anyone's gaze. Sorry, I started a timer when you've been doing this for a minute already and showed no signs of stopping anytime soon. Nice cock block, sis. A girl's gotta yoink the horny sluts off of her boyfriend's lap from time to time. After all, ha 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 ha. Nyx laughed jovially while clutching at her stomach, referencing how Arya pretended to be his girlfriend in front of David. Damn, forgot about this game. And this cowkin bitch. Luna cursed under her breath as she came back down to earth from her incredible high while also physically climbing off of Caden. He also wasn't overly keen on Arya's intervention, but in the end, they did a 30-second task for more than 90 seconds, so she wasn't in the wrong either. Also, it was not like he could have orgasmed from the purple-haired girl's movements even after an hour of this lap dance of hers, since he didn't get too much stimulus. Caden was mostly horny due to the alluring sight of the sexy girl grinding her little sister against his bulge, as well as the general physical closeness of the tantalizing beauty. Next came a truth for Arya. If you had to select between getting gangbanged by 5 BBCs or doing your closest of kin, which one would you choose? BBC? What's that? She asked with an innocent expression. Luna was quick to answer, big black cock. The silver-haired beauty's eyes fluttered wide open as her brain froze. What? This game is too crude, she cried, then reached for her shirt and took it off, revealing her plump breasts and blue bra. Caden couldn't tear his gaze away for a short while, but Luna's cough and Arya's embarrassed attempts at hiding her mounds with her hands were enough to wake him soon enough. Nyx received a dare, which stated, have a breast size contest by pushing your chest up against the closest girl to your right. Only bras or naked skin are allowed. This shitty game is out to get me, Luna shouted accusatorily. Nyx giggled haughtily while grabbing the hems of her pink sweater but was stopped. Wait, pause. Don't undress. I don't want to see your fat mommy milkers. Luna intervened and then took off her black shirt instead. I lose this one. She sported a purple bra that had the same hue as her hair. Luna looked incredibly alluring without a shirt, just like Arya. Caden could get a better look at her breasts, and indeed, she had very inviting tits he wished to knead with his hands and suckle upon. Stop staring, Luna yelled with a strong mix of embarrassment and fury. I don't like my size. Arya then suddenly spoke up with a warm, kind tone. There's nothing to be ashamed of. You have a very nice body, Luna, although you could visit a gym from time to time. The bubbly girl quickly turned out to be the middle, man who negotiated between two fierce kittens in the form of Nyx and Luna. Arya was the girl with the most accommodating personality, or so it appeared to Caden based on their admittedly rather limited number of interactions. Arya simply oozed kindness, acceptance, and peacefulness. Caden also wanted to voice his agreement. Yep. Honestly, the three of you are the 3 sexiest girls I've ever seen in my life. There's a very good reason why I chose to take such a risky bet with Zadie after all. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. His statement was corny, yes, but none of the girls cursed him out. Instead, they felt slightly fuzzy inside. Nyx then turned towards the petite girl with a grin that spoke of her self-perceived supremacy as a woman. So you would rather grind yourself against Caden's crotch than put your chest up against mine? I would think that the former is much more daring than the latter. Humph. Luna snorted before explaining herself. I will be doing much more with his cock tomorrow, but thank the heavens, I won't have to do anything with your tits for the rest of my life. Therefore, my choices were completely rational. When you put it that way, Nyx nodded with acceptance now that she understood her thought process. It was Caden's turn to take a truth task. Out of all of those that are present, who would you like to do it with the most? 3 expectant gazes immediately began examining his face as soon as Angel uttered the question. Caden knew that there was no correct answer in this situation. After all, he himself couldn't select, and even if he could, he wouldn't. None of these lovely girls deserved such a cruel hit to their self-esteem and morale, especially not the day before they went through the toughest ordeal of their lives. He swiftly took off his suit top. He ran away, Luna commented. Yep, he did. Nyx nodded. Indeed. Arya voiced her agreement. Caden could only chuckle wryly at their disapproving reaction. Although he navigated the field filled with deadly landmines rather successfully, it felt as if none of the girls were happy with the end result. Next up are a couple of never have I ever questions. If the statement is correct for you, then you have to lose a clothing item. Click the button when you're ready, Angel instructed cheerily. Without further ado, Nyx pressed the indicated area on the phone screen. Never have I ever kissed someone on the lips before. Oh, sorry, Caden. Arya apologized while taking her trousers off. It's the second time you're apologizing for kissing me, Arya. Don't worry about it, Caden stated while also unbuckling his pants. Holy! Nyx gulped when she saw the silhouette of the monster, which was very unsuccessfully hiding behind his underpants. Yeah, he is a giant down there, Luna commented nonchalantly. And how did you know that from beforehand, exactly? I also remember you being sure that he would pass the test at the studio, too. Arya questioned in an inquisitive tone. I've seen it before, duh. Arya wasn't satisfied with the petite girl's short and elusive answers. Thus, she turned up the intensity of her interrogation. How? When? And most importantly, why? Luna had no reservations about the topic, so she began explaining. Remember when we made a bet that I lost? Where I promised to go on a date with him. It was about me being able to hypothetically take his cock. Look, I even have a pic. The girl revealed calmly before she showed the image of her kneeling between his legs and resting his member on her face while showing 2 victory signs with her fingers. What? This is... Arya couldn't find the correct words to express herself. She was shocked beyond reason. I feel more and more like an innocent maiden the more time I spend in your presence, Luna, Nyx murmured amusedly before asking, how could you possibly be so carefree while showing off this picture? The purple-haired girl shrugged her shoulders dismissively. Considering how this game is going, you will be seeing his member soon enough anyways, and as for me in the picture, you two will have a literal porno shoot in a few hours where he will be all over you. If you can't deal with this much, maybe you shouldn't be here. You're right. Nyx nodded after thinking for a short while. Yeah. Arya accepted her reasoning as well. Suddenly, the atmosphere wasn't as merry as before. Caden knew he had to act, so he clasped his hands together, drawing their attention to him. Girls, there's been something I wanted to tell all of you. I apologize in advance if I will say something cringy. Well, here I go. He breathed in, then began. I know that you are likely in a desperate financial situation and that life has probably dealt an unfair hand to you. I know that whatever I say will come off as me being hypocritical since I'm just a dude who is going to become the luckiest man alive tomorrow as far as I'm concerned. But for you, tomorrow might be a nightmare instead of a dream come true. I can't change that, and I also can't provide you with enough financial support so that you can back out of the filming. The only thing I can do in my powerless state is promise with all my being on the line that I will cherish all of you to the deepest depths of my heart, that I will never forget any of you no matter what the future has in store for us, and that I will treasure what you will give me tomorrow as if they were the greatest gems of the universe. He meaningfully stared into each girl's mesmerizing eyes as he finished his oath. This is my promise to you. Nyx, Luna, Arya. Caden. Nyx murmured with moist eyes as she moved closer to him and hugged him desperately. Arya replicated her actions as she moved to his other side, seeking comfort in his warmth. Thank you. Both of them felt as if he was a firm pillar of support they could reliably lean on during the most trying time of their lives. Luna, on the other hand, had a rather contrasting reaction. She crawled towards him, but instead of hugging him, she grabbed his boxers and freed his male member. Without any further decorum, she pulled the skin back all the way and kissed the tip. Mwah! A slutty smooching sound reverberated through the room, forcing the other 2 girls to awaken from their emotional dazes and Caden to shudder from the sudden, unexpected torrent of pleasure assaulting him. What are you doing? Arya yelped shockedly. Waff, do you sick? No one will understand if you're occupied with swirling your tongue around his tip, Nyx commented amusedly. Plop. Luna opened her mouth and let his member fall out of the embrace of her tantalizing lips with an alluring plop sound. What does it look like I'm doing, you dumb bimbos? I'm asking why are you doing what you are doing? Arya shouted. Caden could see anger written over her normally serene and kind expression. You two climbed all over him, and I even gave him a lap dance before. His poor member looked so dejected with being imprisoned in his undergarment's cruel confines. "Isn't that right, Caden Jr.?" she asked while staring at his member and finished her reasoning by planting another adoring kiss on his tip. "Mwah. Aren't you a bit abrupt? What about the game? It was leading to something like this anyway," Nix asked. "The game fucking sucked. Kept targeting me. I bet the next never have I ever was about putting a dildo up your butt. Let's just jump over the annoying hoops and service our shining knight so that he will treat us just right tomorrow. If you aren't prepared, then just sit this one out on the sidelines, cowardly bitches. I don't want to be outdone by this crude girl," Arya murmured. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Right? Nix agreed, and then the two women glanced into each other's eyes, and in the span of a second, they seemed to conduct an entire silent strategy debate, as in the next moment, both nodded at each other, grabbed Caden's hand that was closer to them, and put his hand on their shapely behinds, indicating that it was okay for him to knead their butts to his heart's content. Then the two rose to their knees and began kissing and licking his cheeks. Caden was as lost as possible by the abrupt happenings of the past few seconds. His speech seemed to have been received 1,000 times better than he thought it would. He half expected them to spit at his audacity with disgust. He still had a long road ahead of him to understand the heart of the fairer gender. Seeing that the two others were game, Luna resumed her sloppy fellatio. It was her first time doing it, but she did practice on her toys quite a bit beforehand, so she wasn't completely lost. Although his size did pose some unexpected difficulties, the warmth of his member made Luna feel things in her nether region that toys could never hope to provide the girl with. The sense of Luna's warm, wet mouth enveloping him was a feeling he'd never thought would be possible for a mortal to experience. He could feel her throat working desperately as she struggled to take him in even halfway. Caden let out a groan of pleasure as his grip tightened on the two other women's butts, giving them a few extra firm squeezes. As Luna continued her servicing, Nix and Arya didn't let up on their kisses and caresses either. They had long since taken his shirt off and roamed their delicate fingers over his chest and arms as they stroked the contours of his muscles. The combination of their touch and Luna's oral machinations was enough to nearly force his seed out of his body immediately. Luna continued her blowjob, and she even did her best to take him deeper down her throat, which resulted in her gagging on his shaft as her eyes watered from the pained effort she exuded. She'd somehow just barely managed to cross the halfway mark on his length. However, she made no attempts to stop or pull back, even when her body was begging the girl to immediately cease all such activities. Instead, she continued her ministrations with even more determination. Slurp, slurp, slurp. Luna continuously let out loud, wet noises as her mouth and throat got filled up with his cock. She could feel his veins pulsing beneath the surface of his skin, which strangely only served to fuel her desire to provide him with the best she could do even further, as if her feminine instincts were commanding the girl to see this through without fail. While he was in her throat's depths, her tongue never ceased swirling around his shaft, causing Caden to tremble all over his body. It was an exceptional service with a myriad of tantalizing stimuli the trio provided him with. As Luna continued her blowjob, Nix and Arya took turns running their fingers through Caden's hair. They nibbled on his earlobes and kissed along his jawline and neck, adding to the sensory overload that was quickly pushing him towards his climax. Caden could feel it building within him, a wave of unstoppable pleasure. He gripped Nix and Arya's butts tighter than ever before, pulling the two yelping girls closer. Caden then finally reached his breaking point as he filled Luna's throat with his warm seed, which resulted in her gagging on his length once again. But she swallowed it down heroically, determined to see things through now that she got this far. As the intensity subsided, Caden let out a long sigh of relief, after which he tiredly collapsed back onto the floor as his legs shook from the force of his orgasm. He looked up at Luna, whose face was covered in a mixture of her saliva, tears, and ruined makeup. At this moment, Luna seemed to be exceptionally hot in his eyes. "This is the greatest gift I've ever received. Holy hell. Thank you, all of you," he whispered. then reached out to grab the cheeks of the girl who was no doubt the star of the recent performance into his palms, and gently pulled her in for a needy hug. Caden didn't care one bit that she was currently quite dirty. After what she'd just done for him, the porn star wannabe felt he was ready to do anything for the girl in return. Luna lay on top of his stomach as he was resting on his back, and in the next moment, Nyx and Arya also lowered themselves to either of his sides, resting their heads on his shoulder. The three women laughed and cuddled close to him, basking in the aftermath of their unexpected, impromptu act. "You're a mighty woman, Luna. You have my utmost respect," Nyx commented without an ounce of coyness being evident in her tone for once. She was truly amazed. "Yeah, I would have barfed my meal up a long time ago in your stead," Arya whispered in agreement. "How did you do it?" I did practice a bit on my toys, but honestly, it was just sheer force of will. I simply refused to tap out. In case you haven't realized, I did gag quite a bit, so I was very close to emptying my stomach. Even though Caden was on cloud 9 at the moment, he thanked the Caden of the past for all the decisions he's made that led up to this dreamlike moment. He even thanked the random banana peel on which he slipped. Caden was also ascertained in his decision. He chose the right path for the porn star system. The hedonistic choice might have made his path to greatness easier and smoother, but he wanted to elevate these girls from the status of commoners, and more so than that, he wanted to help them out of whatever sticky situation they were currently in. However, he would not make them into his Valkyries without their consent. Caden could somehow tell that he could make any woman he shot an adult video with into his Valkyrie, whether she agreed or not, but he wasn't one to do such an underhanded thing. He planned to have a long, deep talk with all three once the shooting was concluded, which would let them make an informed decision instead of becoming his unwilling slave-like partners. Be that as it may, it was time to finish the evening and get ready for the squad's big day. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Ring ring ring. Caden's phone buzzed, forcing the trio of girls to crawl down from him so that he could check what it was about. "Food's here," he stated lazily once the phone was in his hand. "I'm already full," Luna whined adorably while stroking her belly that housed his ejaculated seed. "I, for one, am so down for my pizza. I could go for a bite too." Caden nodded, but he didn't feel like getting up from the floor at all. He opened his banking app and handed it over to Arya. "Could you grab it for me? I need some time to collect myself." The silver-haired beauty happily accepted his request, put her clothes back on that she lost during the game, and went to get the door. The four of them then merrily ate their meal together. There was only one desk and a single chair in his dorm, so they all decided to instead eat on the floor where they played. The food came in boxes that were more than enough to make the process easy and sanitary. Luna didn't lie when she said that she was full. She only managed to gulp down a few bites of her chocolate pancakes before she tapped out entirely. Arya consumed her salad with great fulfillment being evident on her features. She seemed to have had a lot of fun since coming to Caden's dorm. Nyx greedily wolfed her pizza slices down into her belly one after the other. Caden also enjoyed his meal. The purple-haired girl nearly managed to suck his entire soul out alongside his fluids, so the nourishment felt great to get some energy back. Ding! Side quest. Pillar of support completed. 2 upgrade points received. He didn't know how much an upgrade point was worth compared to other rewards, but he wasn't complaining, especially since this mission was exactly what he wanted to do anyways. Now that he thought about it, all his missions had been like that thus far. None forced Caden to do something he didn't want, prompting him to think that this system might truly not be a hostile parasite inhabiting his soul. Once they were done, Nyx was the first to stand. "It's late, and I would like to spend some time alone tonight before going to bed. Thanks for the good time. See you all tomorrow." Arya was next in line to depart. "I had a lot of fun. I kind of feel like I made 2 good friends today and something else. Also, thanks for the food, Caden. See you all tomorrow." Once the two departed, Caden glanced expectantly at the last girl that was remaining. Instead, Luna looked at him with hints of desperation in her visage. She started fiddling around with her fingers while glancing at her feet before asking, "Could I crash the night here? I don't want to see my brother right now." "Sure. Thanks." A great sense of relief visibly washed over the girl. "Don't even mention it, Luna. I have a new toothbrush for you to use, though I'm not sure if there's anything else a lady might need while sleeping over," Caden revealed with a minor hint of embarrassment. "Don't worry. I have all that I need with myself." Luna gestured towards her small bag before gingerly asking, "Hey, can I use the toilet?" He nodded. "Go ahead." The purple-haired beauty seemed to have some reservations about going in. She stared deeply into his eyes as she firmly voiced what troubled her. "Don't you dare listen in." Caden nodded with a sly smile dancing on his lips. "Naturally. I already said that I'm not into scat." "You primitive motherfucker." Luna trailed off before she could finish her sentence and instead just stomped her feet in pretend anger. She was in too good of a mood to be furious with him. By the time her business was concluded and the two finished their nightly routines, it was already time for bed. "Caden, please don't begin that cliché. I'll sleep on the floor, you take the bed act." "Oh, I wasn't going to. My hopes were I could go to bed while hugging you. I've always wanted to drift off to dreamland while embracing a cute girl like you. You're crossing an awful lot of items off of your bucket list these days, aren't you?" She joked cheerily, not at all thrown off by his statement. It was exactly what she wanted as well, though his confident tone did irk her a bit. Luna only wore her panties to bed, while Caden preferred to sleep buck naked. It might have been courteous to put a boxer on, considering the circumstances, but he decided to try his luck. If she was even a bit uncomfortable with him, he would put it on. Luna was the first to climb into the bed, followed by Caden, who greedily hugged the petite girl into his embrace and grabbed onto her inviting breasts. "We're going to only sleep, Caden. I need to conserve my energy to take you on tomorrow." I know. I just love the touch of your skin. Arya was right in that your skin is so damn smooth. I love it. It feels like I'm in heaven." He quickly followed his statement up. "Please do let me know if I'm being annoying." Luna merely sighed defeatedly, but she would be lying if she said she wasn't happy to see his great fascination with her feminine assets. "It's fine. Go ahead, Caden." Silence ensued as he gently massaged her chest while thinking of joyous thoughts before the girl spoke up. "Can I ask something?" "Shoot. Did you lie when you said that you like my chest?" "I don't remember your exact words, but they were something as such." Caden paused his hand movements and forced his mind to awake from his daydreaming, knowing full well that the girl was insecure about this topic. "I did not lie. You're a gorgeous woman, Luna." "Really?" she asked with uncharacteristic meekness. "Yes. Even Arya said that you have an amazing figure." Luna scoffed annoyedly, dismissing his words. "So? A woman with her curves telling me I have a nice cleavage is like a guy with a long sword down there telling another guy that it's okay to run around with a butter knife." It didn't make me feel better at all. Caden couldn't help but burst out into amused laughter. He found her insecurities rather adorable. Once he managed to calm himself, he elaborated on his opinion. "You're right. It must have stung badly, especially for a competitive person like you. However, I never understood where this boob-size mania came from in the first place. To begin with, your breasts are not even small. They fill my palms up very nicely. But I digress. To me, the size doesn't matter at all. Do you know what's the most important thing about breasts? In my humble opinion. The woman they're attached to. That's all that matters. Small boobs attached to a lovely girl like you are infinite times better than some giant breasts that adorn the chest of a cruel harpy." Hee. She couldn't help but giggle merrily. "I didn't know you were so good with words. Maybe you should have become a poet instead of a porn star. Or did you steal those lines from the net? Anyway, you made me feel better about myself. Thank you. You're a great guy, Caden. I'm happy to hear that you think so highly of me. You're an absolutely precious existence yourself, Luna." Another comfortable silence washed over the pair while Caden continued to feel up her delicate skin to his heart's content, while she simply basked in his warmth and gentle caressing. Caden was the one who broke the serene atmosphere this time. "Can I ask a question as well?" Feel free to not answer, though. You want to know why I decided to star in an adult video? Luna guessed easily. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Indeed, she collected herself for a good dozen seconds before nodding her head. I'll tell you, somewhat of a long story, so strap in. My brother and I have been orphans for a few years now when our parents passed away in an accident. I was 15 at the time, but my brother Theodore was already a legal adult, aged 18, so he managed to take legal custody of me. Theo used to work multiple part-time jobs to put food on our table. He worked tirelessly and never asked me to help out. And when I offered it myself, he just smiled and said I should focus on my studies. Luna paused for a few seconds and sighed dejectedly. Pain oozed from the girl, who looked especially fragile at this moment. Nonetheless, she bravely continued. Despite us losing our parents and him having a rather mediocre pay, we were happy considering the circumstances. He was a good brother. When I turned 18 and graduated high school, I didn't plan to go to college but instead wanted to try myself out as a game streamer, since gaming was always a happy place for me. Theo was overjoyed to see that I had something I wished to do, and we made a deal that stated I would have 1 year where I could go all in on streaming and uploading videos while he would provide for me any necessities I needed. But if I didn't manage to make enough money by the end of the year, I would go to college or get employed somewhere normal. Sadly, my numbers never amounted to much. The most I made was $286 in a month, and it wasn't even the last one, so my career wasn't going anywhere. The agreed-upon duration was up about 3 months ago. I hated school with all my heart, so per our deal, I found employment at the toy shop where you and I met. However, a few weeks ago, Theo changed drastically. He recently awakened, being one of the lucky few who it happened to after reaching the age of 20. When he got into the guild called Blood Pact, everything changed about him. He began accusing me of being lazy, of abusing his kindness, of being a slut for working in such a place. By the end of her story, Luna's small frame was trembling, and her voice was coarse as she tried her best to remain firm. Tears flew down her cheeks, and she hiccuped while she struggled to get the next words out of her lips. He said that, since I'm such a slut, I might as well embrace being one for real. He said that I would have to find employment as a sex worker and begin repaying his years of kindness by giving him $5,000 at the end of every month. According to his words, with a pretty face like mine, it should be effortless for me to earn that amount and more. He also said that if I were to fail to pay up, he would invite the execs of his guild over to enjoy me to their heart's content so that he could curry favor with them that way. I thought about running away, but Theo is the last memory I have of my happy childhood. So losing him scared me. I know that it's foolish, but I just couldn't get myself to pack my bag and disappear. Partly because I kept begging the heavens that he miraculously return to how he was previously, and partly because I had nowhere else to go. Caden tightened his grip around the girl's body as if trying to reassure her that he was here and that everything would be all right. A myriad of emotions burned deep within his soul. He felt pity that such a sweet soul had to go through this atrocity. He felt sorrow due to seeing her small, vulnerable form shaking and hearing her traumatized voice and unsuccessfully muted sobbing. He felt like vomiting due to the actions of this so-called Theodore. But above all else, he felt fury, anger, rage, wrath. Caden had never been confronted with such deep-seated hatred for someone in his entire life. And he didn't even know how the man looked. Caden felt like jumping out of bed, rushing to his place, and brutally massacring him in cold blood. That's what a scumbag of this magnitude deserved. But, deep down, he knew it wasn't the right path. Luna would end up resenting him if he somehow managed to succeed. No, he had to beat Theodore up without ending his worthless life unless the man was truly beyond reformation. Something must have messed with his mind. Maybe he became a drug addict. It wasn't Caden's place to decide whether Theodore would get to live or die. He would just get revenge for putting such a sweet girl through the emotional turmoil this failure of a brother did by beating him to a pulp and leaving the rest to Luna. However, to do that, he had to grow in strength since Theodore was an awakened. But how? A sudden ding sounded in his mind, demanding his focus. The host can grow in strength through multiple methods. Leveling up as normal awakened do is one, but the system doesn't recommend that route for now due to the host's insufficient power level. The porn star system supports its host to reach never-before-seen heights. The host should complete missions to receive rewards, and as he ranks up, more and more opportunities will be opened up. Caden, is everything all right? You're scaring me. He had just now realized that he was gripping her delicate skin too firmly due to his anger, and then his surprise at the system's revealed information. Caden quickly let go and apologized. Don't worry about it, Luna whispered softly, then turned around to face him, burying her face into his broad, warm chest. Caden hugged the fragile girl close and planted a gentle kiss on her lush purple hair before firmly declaring, "It'll be all right, Luna." The two remained as such until they managed to drift off to sleep. I know what I revealed about my situation last night made you furious, but try your best to forget about it. All right? You can't do anything about it no matter how angry you are. Let's just do our best to have a good time during the filming, Luna said, while pulling up the zipper on her futuristic-style jacket. Sure. Caden nodded amicably while he was buttoning his dress shirt, though he would never be able to forget about her sad tears or the promise he made to himself. With that said, Caden understood perfectly that she was right. He couldn't do anything about it for now. He had to utilize his system to become stronger. The duo soon got into a taxi and began making their way over to the studio where the recording would take place. NSFW Art on Patreon and DC. https://discord gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. Both of their phones rang in sync, which could only mean one thing. Someone messaged the group chat they created last night. Nix, where are you guys at? I'm already halfway there. Arya, I'm close. Nix, maybe we could get some ice cream before we go in. Arya, sorry, I'm on a diet. Nix, should have known. What about some strong alcohol? It might be smart considering the circumstances. Arya. At this point, a third person joined. Luna, we just grabbed a ride. ETA 20. Nix plus Arya, we? Luna, yeah, I slept over at Caden's. Nix, bold. Arya, humph. I heard guys don't like girls who are too clingy, especially not after just getting to know them. Luna, curb your jealousy, princess. Arya, Nix, Kakik. Caden, morning, ladies. Nix, hey. Arya, hi Caden. Good morning to you too. How have you slept? Did you eat breakfast? Are you ready for today? Caden, I'm good, thanks. Also, everything will be fine. You'll have a great time, don't worry about a single thing. Leave it all to me. There's one thing I wanted to say. You might be approached by Zadie or another agent once you're done with your part of the shooting regarding talks of a long-term contract. I know you girls are strapped for cash, but I am going to ask a favor. Give me a day. Don't sign nor verbally agree to any further commitments with the studio. Once we are done shooting, I would like to propose something to all three of you. A short silence ensued in the chat and Luna, who was in the same car, glanced at him questioningly, but he only smiled mysteriously, not giving her any further details. Arya, you can count on me, Caden. Nix, same. Caden, thanks. You won't regret it, I promise. See you soon. Hey there! Zadie greeted the four youngsters who were seated in the waiting room. Hi, Zadie, they all said in sync. Are you ready to get the show going? I sincerely hope no penetration happened last night. None, Caden nodded. Only oral, Luna corrected smugly. Zadie wryly chuckled but made no further fuss. That's all right. Follow me, please. The glasses-wearing woman waved for the group to follow her, as she led them down a hallway that opened up into a larger, more welcoming space. Here's the shooting room you'll be using today, she announced as she opened the door to reveal an expansive set. The walls were lined with diffused lighting to create an inviting atmosphere. A large, plush bed occupied the center of the room, which was surrounded by carefully placed props such as velvet chairs, ornate mirrors, and a dresser with various lingerie options. Around it were a series of tripods and high-quality cameras already positioned to capture multiple angles. Mics were suspended from the ceiling, blending in with the overall aesthetic of the room. Caden was surprised by what he saw, which he voiced nonchalantly. Feels pretty surreal to see things like this. It's like an episode of behind the scenes for a show. Pretty cozy, huh? Zadie grinned. We want it to feel as natural as possible while still producing high-quality film. The woman then pointed at an unassuming door. This here leads to the resting room. You'll be able to relax between scenes, take breaks, grab a bite to eat, and even go for a nap here. Well, the girls. I'll work you like the workhorse I believe you to be, Caden. Of course, you will still get food and drinks as well as some downtime between the shoots. He shrugged his shoulders. No biggie. At least you're confident, but you know what they say about arrogance. Caden smirked. Ask Angel if it's pride or arrogance speaking. KHM. Zadie abruptly coughed into her palm as very vivid and loud memories of yesterday flashed in her mind. The group peeked inside the adjacent room. It was equally inviting, with comfortable lounge chairs, a couple of beds, and a small table set up with a variety of snacks, water bottles, and energy drinks. The room had a more casual vibe, making it the perfect spot to wind down during breaks. There was even a screen set up to monitor the footage being recorded. Zadie turned back to the group and asked, "Any volunteers to start?" "Me," a feminine voice shouted instantly, surprising all present. It came from the silver-haired beauty. Arya was very enthusiastic to start for some reason. "Sure. Here's the script," Zadie said, then reached into her purse to pull out 2 papers. She handed one to Caden and the other to Arya. "I know it's trash. You don't need to tell me. Not many people care for the story in porn videos, so we've been cutting down on screenwriter expenses." Caden glanced towards the paper in his hands. It was the most generic AI slop imaginable. He had no doubts in his mind that the writer just lazily input some prompts into an AI writing program, probably not even caring enough to check the output. It had a lot of cringe dialogue and ended as such. They exchange a playful smile, their excitement building as they inch closer, the mood lighter and filled with anticipation. Start with a kiss, then a blowjob, then just fuck ick plus IDC. Even the screenwriter gave up by the end. Arya murmured under her breath with disbelief. "Yeah, this is just sad. I could write something better while getting my soul sucked out of my body by Luna." "Don't talk about other girls right now, you jerk." Arya snorted cutely. "This is the job you were hired for. Come, we will visit our makeup artists before the shoot. You can memorize your award-winning lines there," their director instructed. "Good luck." Nyx cheered before the trio disappeared from the room. "What about the filming crew?" Caden asked. He didn't want some filthy mutt to record his girls. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord.gg/necrobin join to chat with the community. We employ women in the studio to do the camera work. Virgins tend to heavily prefer their presence, Zadie replied, making both youngsters sigh with relief. After a short walk, they arrived at the makeup room, which was spacious with a long vanity mirror adorning it. Various makeup tools and products were neatly laid out on the counter: brushes, palettes, sprays, and more. "Ah, you're here." The makeup artist, a lively woman with short, vibrant blonde hair, greeted them. "Take a seat, and we'll get you camera ready in no time." Caden took a seat in one of the chairs while Arya sat next to him. The makeup artist started with Arya, pulling out a foundation and carefully applying it to even out her complexion. She added a light dusting of powder to set the base, then moved on to subtle contouring to enhance her genetic lottery winner facial features. "We'll keep it natural but still make sure you look perfect on camera," the makeup artist explained while blending a soft pink blush onto Arya's cheeks. For Caden, the process was even simpler. The woman checked his skin and quickly applied a bit of a matte powder to reduce shine under the strong lighting. She then ran a comb through his hair, smoothing out any stray strands. "All set," she said after a few minutes, stepping back to admire her work. Caden glanced at Arya through the mirror, noting how the subtle touch-up enhanced her natural beauty even further than he thought possible. Arya caught his gaze but quickly averted her eyes. She was flustered. "It's truly happening." I'm about to take this divine existence's first time, Caden thought inwardly. By the time they came back to the shooting room, 2 women were already present. Both were fiddling around with cameras and computers, setting everything up. Good, you're finally here, one of the women said without looking up. We'll start rolling once everything's in place. Just act out the script when we give the signal. Caden glanced at Arya, who stood frozen for a second, clutching the paper containing their dialogue. Her nervousness was palpable, but she forced herself to take a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves. To divert her attention, Arya began flipping through the lines again, reciting them. Once everything was ready, the director spoke up. All right, you two. Places. They positioned themselves on the bed, with Arya sitting beside Caden. The camera woman clicked something on the console and waved at them. Start when you're ready. Arya was the one who was supposed to begin, so they all waited patiently for her. The girl, however, was on the brink of fainting by this point. She wasn't capable of even speaking properly, let alone acting her lines out. Caden decided to intervene by putting a hand on her shoulder. Talk to me. What's going on? Caden, I don't think I can do this. I don't even remember what my name is right now. Arya was a complete nervous wreck. The 2 crewmen glanced at each other wryly, doing their best not to sigh tiredly. They already knew it was going to be an excruciatingly long day. How strictly do we have to abide by the script? Caden suddenly asked while turning his head towards Zadie, who was comfortably seated on a sofa facing them. Very. I personally wouldn't mind if you did some improvisation, but the studio owner who should be here instead of me is very spiteful for us strong-arming him into taking a back seat. He could trouble you if you don't act as his screenwriter wanted. Also, remember that the name of the game is Vanilla. Don't do anything extreme. Caden nodded, accepting her words. He wanted to film only Vanilla today. After all, he had big plans for the juicier categories, and it would be a waste to film them for this studio instead of his own. All right, Arya, you just have to do your best. Leave everything else to me. It'll all be fine. She gulped nervously but bobbed her head in understanding. Caden's radiating confidence made her feel a bit safer and better about the situation. However, Caden knew that this much wasn't going to be enough. I suppose my E-tier trash pile of an ability will end up being quite handy in the end. Remove her inhibitions, he intoned inwardly, casting the ability on the timid girl nearing a nervous breakdown. The change in her demeanor was immediate. Arya's spine straightened, and her slumped shoulders corrected themselves. Then her eyes calmed and began shining. Her lips went from trembling to smiling excitedly. Caden reached out and gently stroked her juicy right thigh in a show of support. Though she wore tight yoga pants, and the touch wasn't direct skin contact, it still felt amazing against his palm. Arya was supposed to say the first line, so he waited patiently. She took a deep breath, then glanced at him with a shy smile. So, this is really happening. I can't believe it. Good. She's acting as instructed, Caden thought. It was time for him to do his part as well in this cringe-ass dialogue scene. He gave a nervous expression. Yeah, me neither. It's like, my heart's racing like crazy. Arya blushed a faint shade of red as she gently touched his hand that was stroking her thigh, not to stop his movements but simply to be in more intimate contact. The silver-haired heavenly beauty then used her other hand to playfully tuck a stray lock behind her ear. She was so incredibly stunning that Caden couldn't help but frown. Arya was by far the most doll-like beauty out of the 3 girls. Not a single imperfection or blemish was visible. Her face was perfectly symmetrical and had the quality that made him question if a divine entity had sculpted this girl from scratch instead of traditional human biology taking place. Arya then continued, Same here. I thought I'd be freaking out, but it feels kinda exciting. The previously anxious girl suddenly made a bold move. What she did wasn't in the script, but it didn't contradict it either. She rose from the bed, then sat on his thighs, facing him. The silver-haired girl followed up her move by reaching for his dress shirt and unbuttoning it boldly. Right? It's like, I was always wondering how it would feel, but now that we're here, it's just happening. Caden responded to her words with a jovial laugh and then latched his 2 hands onto her perky butt, giving it a good squeeze. Kia! Arya yelped cutely as a jolt of electricity visibly traveled along her spine, causing the girl to shake her behind in his hands. NSFW art on Patreon and DC. https://discord GG/necrobin join to chat with the community.